I'm looking at Snapchat stories still. Hello and welcome to In the Garage. It's a podcast about Weezer by some genuine teasers. Is a tagline I think we'll be keeping.
Good to hear that.
Hey, you know the rules. No jumping in. It actually hasn't been that long since we last recorded for a nice change of pace. I'm excited about today's episode, so I'm just going to jump right into it.
Do you ever not jump right into it?
Yes, I almost never jump right into it.
I feel like you often say you're about to jump right into it.
Tyler,
you haven't been introduced yet, so shut up.
I'll often talk for 2 to 5 minutes, just on my lonesome, just musing like I'm Paul F. Tompkins. But that's not today.
Lofty.
Okay. Very rude of you to say. I'm going to start by introducing someone else who's not clinking ice on mic and being rude to me. He is holding a copy of the album we're about to discuss in his hands. It's Chaz. Chaz, how you doing today?
I feel okay, I guess.
Yeah, you have not been doing well. During our customary pre-episode album listen, you expressed some concerns about the state of your body.
Yeah.
How's that going?
I mean, that was like 20 minutes ago, so still not great, but
Okay.
I chugged some water. I think getting some beer into me, I think will be good.
Drinking 2 separate liquids, 1 water, 1 beer.
The water's to keep me hydrated. The beer is to get me drunk.
Wow. Classic applications for those. Okay, I'll turn now to call up Rihanna. It's the rude boy himself. He's holding a mic like he's gonna rap. It's Tyler. Tyler, drop a verse.
Where's my sex, guys?
Oh.
Well, you better cut that, because that's shit.
Whew, Tyler, how you doing today?
I'm very tired, but otherwise very good. And I am so excited. I'm on Spotify now.
Oh.
I just wanted to say that. Thought popped into my head.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I thought we were going to use the end of the episode, like always, to plug our own shit.
Sorry, I'll censor all of that. I'm doing just fine, Chris.
I'm beep now. And I'm excited about it. We'll get to what Tyler's talking about later.
In 2 hours. Once we talk about
Buckle
a whole
in,
other...
baby. Skip to the end if you want to hear what Tyler's all
maybe
about.
Tyler will forget about it by the end.
Oh, very rude of you to say.
I've been bad today.
And I know what you're thinking. Now that the introductions are done, we can get on with the episode.
But wait one moment.
But wait one moment. You're wrong. In a first...
You idiot.
We tricked you again. One of our classic gags and gaffes. In a first for In the Garage, we have a guest co-host today. He has...
Thank you. My name's Gavin. It's great to be on the show.
Gavin is joining us today. Welcome, Gavin.
Thanks for having me on.
An interesting thing about Gavin is that he's a Weezer fan, but he's also married. Those are usually 2 mutually exclusive things.
Yeah, I got in big trouble when I said that I was gonna go record a Weezer podcast instead of hang
For
out.
5 hours.
Just kidding.
Instead of
Softball.
I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff happening this weekend in our hometown that
London, Ontario?
people have plans for. I didn't know if you've dropped the location before.
We always
just
talk
have
about
not
it because of the
dropped.
loud traffic.
my...
Ooh, right.
London known for its loud traffic.
It is actually one of the worst cities for driving, apparently.
This is like
Yeah.
the worst corner for traffic, too. It's... The other day, I was sitting here
We're
on
really
my
at the
laptop,
mecca of bad traffic.
and I heard some wheels screech, and then I quickly turned to look out the window, and there was a car getting into an accident.
Ooh, good stuff. Not mutually exclusive usually. Gavin likes Weezer and has a mustache. So Gavin, welcome. We're excited to have you. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this album. What?
Oh, sorry, I was going to wait for you to be done. We didn't do the list.
Oh, shit. We didn't make a list of the songs. Okay, we'll be right back with this episode of In the Garage.
We have to.
Holy shit.
Fuck, making the list itself was a bit of an ordeal.
Holy fuck. Pause the recording. Welcome back to In the Garage. It's still myself, Tyler, Chaz, and Gavin. The fearsome foursome, as we call ourselves. We also sometimes call ourselves Weezer. Tag yourself. I'm Pat.
I'm Brian.
Matt.
Oh, fuck you.
No, I'm Mikey.
I wish.
Can we agree that Mikey was probably the coolest member of Weezer?
I think we could probably
Brian.
agree to that.
Nah, Matt.
Nah.
Jason. So,
Carl Koch.
love you, Carl. I'm sure he's listening. As we alluded,
Not now, but maybe in 2 weeks when this gets put out.
it's true, he's not listening now. Holy shit. So, as we alluded to before our unplanned break, we're talking Weezer. the band.
100% exclusive Weezer.
Yeah.
What?
This is the Weezer
Yeah,
podcast.
we only talk about Weezer on this show.
Okay.
We're not allowed to talk about the cold one you just cracked.
Or the boys.
That's an old joke, and it's going to be even older by the time anyone.
Yeah, only 2 weeks
By
old.
the
Yeah,
time this
sorry.
comes out.
Jeez.
So,
Not fresh. Unlike this cold one I just cracked.
so the album we're talking about today, you guessed it, by the title of this video on YouTube, and by
Congratulations.
naturally
By
following the
MGMT.
progression of our episodes. We're not talking about Congratulations MGMT. I would have some very strong opinions on that.
This song or the album?
The album.
The album.
Oh.
We'll bring Gavin
Best
back for that
MGMT
episode.
album.
We're talking about the last song off of the Killer's Hot Fuss. Everything
the
will be
Gun?
all right. What? Oh,
Now
give me
I'm
one
just
second.
guessing. It could be Ballad of Michael Valentine on a deluxe edition.
Everything.
I'm not talking about the
Ooh, the
fucking
limited
deluxe
edition one. My brother Aaron picked that one up. The one that's got the
Black cover. I almost bought that a few weeks
I know.
ago.
I would have bought that, but I already have a regular edition. I don't
Yeah,
know
exactly.
if
Me
I'm a.
too.
I mean, I
And
really
Chaz
like
thought,
that.
I don't need more than one copy of a
Two
CD.
copies of the same album. We were
I
just
got,
talking
like-
about how you had 40 Blue albums.
It actually might be 40. Like, I think it's probably like high 30s or so.
Cool.
So today we are talking about Weezer's 9th album. I actually know it this time because there's a quote where Rivers Cuomo calls it their 10th record, but he includes Death to False Metal, so it's actually their 9th
He
studio album.
includes The Lion and the Witch E EP.
So we're gonna have to correct Rivers on that. He was wrong
Yeah.
about his own band.
Classic. Well, we're not doing Death to False Metal. We will do a Death to False Metal episode.
We'll
I'm sure.
do Death to False Metal.
Yeah, I bet there's people placing bets on what. You know what?
I bet there are not.
What the
Shit,
Las
new-
Vegas sports book.
What are the odds the next episode is Death to False Metal?
I would say
Someone's
0
like
at this point.
hitting refresh on the YouTube page and everything pops up. They're like,
Tyler just holds out on this album, or this episode doesn't release it, and then
That's $1 million.
and then we record Death to False Metal, and he puts it out first. Oh my!
Wow, that was a great.
This is some riveting
that was
content.
a big lead up to no payoff.
Oh, everything I contribute is shit. So
But everything you contribute will be all right in the end. So
no, it's all shit.
okay.
Go back to bed, sweetie.
So this album, let's talk about it, shall we? It's the longest gap in albums, but since the gap between Pinkerton and Green. Thoughts?
It's a big old gap. I read that he hit writer's block for a lot of that.
He did.
Yeah,
So
I mean, no, you do your thing.
well, initially they
I was
were
just gonna make shit up.
okay, cool.
A great reaction.
So they had initially started working on an album pretty much like, I believe, right after Hurley was released. And then that ended up being shelved Rivers had like interview quotes about it saying like, oh yeah, like we just started working on it, and apparently he was like, yeah, I had a conversation with the producer and they said, yeah, like a lot of Hurley is so dark, but this album is nice and light.
Which, what?
Which is a crazy thing to say. He described it as like you're 16 riding your bicycle to get a Slurpee.
Yeah.
Which does not sound like a good album. Quite just based on that snippet and knowing that they were working on it immediately after Hurley.
Yeah, no, but see, you could almost describe the White Album as that at points.
That's fair.
But the White Album didn't come right after Hurley.
Yeah.
And also,
Although Weezer
4
was
albums
on
in
a-
4 years is hefty for any band of any size.
Yeah,
Like,
they were planning for a 2011 release.
Yeah. I mean, Weezer was on a pretty strong upwards trajectory at that point, I think.
Well,
Really? I don't. So my experience with Weezer was that
Oh yeah.
there was there was no one that I knew. I guess I didn't know people who were still into Weezer that much when through Ratitude and through Red.
Yeah.
Before that. And someone I know was like, oh, I listened to Hurley and it was okay, it was pretty good, but it wasn't enough of an endorsement for me to listen to. So when this album rolled around, it was my first reintroduction to Weezer, which was like, I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, which made the experience even better.
Well, if that's the case, then you should listen to Hurley because
Yeah.
we really like Hurley. But yeah, basically, but we've talked about it on the podcast before. Basically, that in our estimation, maybe not in the public or critical consensus, but like after you sort of hit the bottom with Ratitude, then you've got Hurley, which is like quite a good, still in that same poppy style, but a very good album. And then they come out with this, which is very much sort of switching things up. So during this hiatus that the band was taking, Rivers, like you said, Tyler, Rivers has a bit of writer's block. He breaks through it during some meditation thing, that like a sort of trip that he goes on. And basically he centers around this vision or this mission statement of, I want to make a complex classic album. And what I find interesting about that is, once again, we've talked a lot about how Weezer, or Rivers especially, feels like he's so in tune with the fans and like with like fan reaction to their music. And then this, like, even like his desire to make a classic album is like, yeah, I was talking to a bunch of fans and they were like, man, I hope Weezer makes a really good album. And so then I wanted to make a really good album.
Wow, could you imagine a fan opinion like that? I hope they make a good album.
Like, true, like that is like basically how it comes across, how he is like
If you had one like sentence to say to Rivers to inspire his next album, mine would definitely be, hope it's good, man.
please make it good. Let me see if I can find the exact quote here.
You know what's weird though is that for the end of Hurley, we were talking about how time flies is a pretty great segue into Everything Will Be Alright, because it's all about the passage of time
Yeah.
and him realizing he's gotten older. Why did it take him 4 years to realize, oh, I should make an album like about the passage of time and everything?
It's true.
It's a
Why
great album.
did it take him like 10 years to figure out that he should make a good album? No offense to Hurley.
I'll
We
tell
love
you
Hurley.
why.
We love Hurley.
It took them that long to get Rick Ocasek
Ooh.
back in the producer chair.
Rick.
Hell yeah. He's back, baby. First time since Green. We're done with multiple producers.
By Rick
We're done with
Rubin.
yeah, it doesn't quite work. Goodbye, Switchblade. No, what's his name?
Jack
Knight.
Switchblade.
I was thinking of the New Zealand wrestler Jay White, alias Switchblade.
Nice.
What? What a stupid thing to reference. Just a dumb thing to know in general.
He recently lost the IWGP United States Championship to Juice Robinson. Feel free to kill me anytime. So, Rivers brought allegedly 80, he said maybe 80, maybe 100 songs. And Brian is quoted as saying, hey, how did you have the time to make all these songs?
A 4-year break.
Yeah, they do
20 to 25 songs a year.
I think it's doable.
2 songs a month. Like,
Sure. They date back to late 2010, apparently. We've got Rick back, and then they come out with this album. It's 42 minutes long, longest one since Make Believe. And they say, we're donezo with the pop stuff. We're donezo with Dr. Luke and Lil Wayne. We're gonna make a rock album. They say, you could say, we belong in the rock world.
I guess you could say that.
Whew. Good. I'm glad we... What's
Don't
that?
do that into the microphone.
No, that was the opposite of whistling. It's the intent.
It's like a cricket. I think there's a cricket.
Oh, I see. Yes.
I already regret bringing Gavin on. Just kidding, Gavin. I gotta look at his legs, so I'm happy.
Oof, true. So tan. But let's talk about it. So
10.
just real quick, we'll do a couple of sort of more general things before we jump into the track betrock. The artwork. What's the deal? Anyone have any thoughts on this?
I love it.
What's the deal with my brain?
It's stupid. Oh,
Very scary, big monster. Ooh, fog, spooky.
He's got big teeth.
But he's kind of
There's mountains,
smiling.
which is kind of fun.
He has great teeth for a monster.
Something with like the artwork of it. I've got the CD booklet in my hand, and I'm taking it out and I'm unraveling it. It's super long. I don't know why I'm actually doing
I'm
this.
right here, and I can
already
say
knew
that's
it.
all true.
Could have lied about it.
I could have just.
Oh, how like it sort of expands and it's a whole
Yeah.
scene.
Like a full arm's length of.
It's like it's
like
like
a panorama.
It's like an 8:1 aspect ratio, and like
8 squares.
8x1.
Yeah. I mean, not quite, because each of these squares gets slowly shorter because they have to fold over each other, right?
Right, so probably like 7.93.
At least.
At least.
It does not make much of a difference.
Whew. This album released through Burger Records.
Yep. It was a
Not Interscope or Epitaph?
well,
Or
no,
whatever?
it's Republic Records, but Burger Records did the cassette releases for it. As far as I know, I don't know if they did anything else, but Burger Records did the cassettes,
That's
and
correct.
that was a shit show because they put out 4 different cassettes for it. They're all the same, but each one was autographed by like a different member, and they only released like, I don't know if it was 100 of each or 200, or I forget the exact number, but I was there and they sold them not on their website but on eBay through their like eBay store, and I was there like hitting the refresh button for like 10 minutes.
You're acting it out now.
He is miming hitting the refresh button.
Yeah, just slamming F5, and then instantly like put 2 copies of each one into my cart, and then yeah.
So wait, what was the shit show?
No, the shit show was as soon as I bought them, like I looked back at it, and like all the Rivers and I think Brian ones were sold out like within like 2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Scott's were left lying around for a while, which I mean, you got to feel bad for Scott for that, but you know, not an original member.
Also the bass player.
Yeah. Like hell, Pat sold out before Scott.
Close your internet browser.
Why? I'm using it to look at my notes on the album.
Okay, you can keep the notes open. Okay, so if you didn't like us breaking down the songs into all these weird different classifications, Weezer also broke all the songs down into weird classifications on this album. Tyler, are you familiar with this? You're looking confused.
I knew about it, but I forget which songs were sorted into what.
Yeah.
And
So-
what it means and
So they're kind
why
of
it matters.
what I am. So there are 3 sort of broad thematic sections of the album. They're not sequential, so basically like they're more categories, I guess you could say. So the 3 categories are the panopticon, which is sort of, I would say, from the perspective of Weezer, the band themselves / Rivers. There's Patriarchia. Oh, and the Panopticon is Back to the Shack, Had It Up to Here, and The Wasteland, which is part 1 of the Future Scope trilogy. Patriarchia is about relationships with fathers and father figures, and that's Eulogy for a Rock Band, The British Are Coming, Foolish Father, and Anonymous. And then Belladonna, which is concerning romantic relationships or women. There's Go Away, Lonely Girl, Ain't Got Nobody, Da Vinci, and Return to Ithaca. Sort of a tenuous fit with Return to Ithaca, I'd say, but
Yeah, and the general, like, I would not put Eulogy for a Rock Band on
Yeah.
the part 2 of that.
Well, I mean, for the wait, which one did you say that was? The Patriarcha?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because you're looking up to a rock band, almost like seeing it as a father figure, right?
Idolize them.
Idolizing them, yeah.
But they're talking about themselves.
No, but
No,
they're
you're
also
not.
talking about
The rock eulogy for a rock band isn't about them.
Ooh, we'll get to it. Save it for the pod, as we often say.
Actually, something interesting about that too, though, is if you get the CD, or I'm assuming on the record, I have the record too, but I haven't really looked at the inserts for it. But there's kind of a bit of a description thing for each thing. There's like images for each of the 3 different like classifications of songs,
Categories.
and a bit of a and then it lists what songs are in them. But for the panopticon, like it says like male 20s, and then it's someone looking in the mirror and it says I'm a loser after all. The belladonna, it says female about 30, and then female 20s for a different girl because it's about multiple women, right?
Right.
When have we ever known Rivers to just talk about his wife and no one else, right?
His wife.
His wife
No one
ever.
else. That's a double reference.
One of them was referencing his wife. That one was
That was referencing a Weezer song. Yeah, this whole album, I would.
the Patriarcha says early 30s describing the guy. Weird. Huh, okay, I'm gonna stop talking about the
Really?
insert to this CD.
Weird.
I would describe this album as thematically tenuous.
Yeah, getting back to the cover real quick, you know what other cover this cover reminds me of?
What? The cover
Domo?
for Back to the Shack or Cleopatra?
Yeah, it reminds me of the exact same image, Chaz. Good to
Well,
great
no.
catch on
The
that.
Back to
okay.
the Shack one doesn't have.
Oh, it doesn't
this,
have the monster in it? Is that the main difference?
and it also doesn't say
Cleopatra have
everything
the
will
Egyptian-
be right in the end.
Or all right, even.
Let's count all of the differences.
boy.
No, you know what album cover is on the reminds me of this thing?
I'm starting to rethink my plans for this evening.
What's up?
The Glow Part 2 by Microphones. Are you familiar with this cover?
Great
Oh
album.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I see it.
The
Let me look
it,
this up
it makes you feel like you look at it and you go, this is like an indie out, like a weird album that I have to go and unwrap and figure out and everything.
It is similar. I see it.
And that there's an animal
Well,
in the
you
woods.
link
In the
have
forest.
to unwrap this when it comes
I
kind
think
of
you have to
wrapped
unwrap
up.
Shit.
all albums.
Wow, that's a really unique thing for a CD.
No, I'm not talking about like taking the cellophane off.
Oh, not the cellophane wrap. You're talking about that 8x1
Yeah,
The Cloud
X to
7.93
unlocking the
by
mysteries
1.
of this album.
I
Okay,
feel like so many people are upset with me right now. At
but
least 3.
Tyler and Chaz raised the idea of this being a concept album, which was completely foreign to me. I did not know it to have any kind of overarching. Well, like I wasn't even familiar with the sort of 3 groupings until I was doing research. But
Yeah.
I didn't hear or read anything about a concept album. So Chaz, why don't you delve into that just for a little bit, and then we'll get to the actual album. with the
Honestly,
songs.
I don't know much about this. Like, I never really tried to research it that
It's
much.
definitely very vague.
I'm definitely gonna try doing it more. But so the disc itself, like the CD, or if you have the record, the label in the center is like a reel of tape, like magnetic tape that you'd use
Reel
on
to
like
reel.
yeah, reel to reel, like machine for recording audio. And there's a label on it that it's partially ripped off, but the date is August 7th, 1965. Or not August, October 7th, 1965. Which October 7th actually was the release date for this album. But
it didn't come out in 1965. It came out in 2014.
There's a website called Take Me Back.
Really?
That it just
Take Me
it
Back
just
to the
tells you-
Shack.
Take Me Back to the Shack. But it's actually it just tells you what happens on certain dates in the past.
Uh-huh.
And I looked up October 7th, 1965.
Gavin is out podcasting us.
I did try and do this and did not find much of note.
The U.S. president was Lyndon B. Johnson. Famous people born on this no one of interest. Yesterday by the Beatles was never mind.
So the one thing
It was
that-
either not out yet or already out.
the one thing that I saw, which I was like, maybe there's a connection here, was that like someone in the U.S. government revealed that they had considered dropping an atomic bomb on Germany. That happened on October 7th, 1965.
Some lackey was like, "What if we drop a bomb?"
Well, I mean, it was more that like some guy revealed. It was like, oh yeah, like
We
now
were
that you
talking
Drop.
about drop.
yeah.
Oh, when you said that at first, I was like, they were thinking about dropping an atomic bomb in 1965 on Germany.
On Germany.
This doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Totally. So let's talk about the album, shall we?
We didn't even finish the.
Sorry.
Yeah, what's the whole idea of the concept?
Yeah,
behind
that was
It-
my first
yeah,
question.
it-
When-
I feel like Weezer. Sorry, I'm going to talk over you. I feel like Weezer always has
It's
like
not allowed on this podcast.
potential.
Dude, stop talking over Chaz.
There's always a potential for there to be a theme on a Weezer album if you jump into it, like if you dive deep enough into it, or if you're abstract enough.
If you stand back and squint, then it
Yeah,
can be.
but I don't know if I've ever listened to a Weezer album front to back and been like, wow, like what a
journey.
overarching story in like a very intentional way. Like I enjoy the overarching story in that each song has different sort of parts to it, but to me it's more of just like, yeah, it sounds like Rivers made another batch of songs and it's great.
Yeah.
Another batch from Rivers and the Boys. That's what I always call a new Weezer album coming out.
Sorry, but what's the concept on this one?
I mean, I don't really fully get it either. I don't know if there's a whole story with it or what it is.
I'm looking at an unreviewed Genius annotation that might shed some light on the whole thing.
Oh, I cannot wait. I didn't get a chance to look at all the Genius annotations.
That's a huge part of our podcast is rereading the Genius annotations that
Some
anyone else can
14-year-old
look
kid,
up.
like, I think it's about a girl.
One of my favorite movies.
I think it's about a girl.
But yeah, like for the art direction especially, that's where it really ties into the concept album, which you don't see a lot on, like, you never see with Weezer albums. I guess the closest you could come to is on like Pinkerton. If you took out like that black plastic CD tray and the CD thing, like there's a hidden map underneath there on the inside of like the back insert. But for this one, if you get past like all like the super like the monster thing on the front and that carrying over to the back, like a lot of it is like all this like 60s like technology that looks like some like shit out of Call of Duty Black Ops or just the real life Cold War.
Oh.
But yeah, and on the back of the CD insert, it says like transmission received and sorted by Joe LaFolly, 1965, 4th level literati, which I don't really know what that means, but they kind of say it in the beginning of the British are coming.
Mm-hmm.
See, now the Genius annotation for that section, welcome to the first level
perfect.
literati, which I always thought was referring to some sort of like underground American Revolution time. Like, oh, this is like the
But
network.
that wasn't
alternate
happening
history
in
kind of thing.
1965.
Or even like it could have been like, oh, some reference to like,
Rivers has
I know there were like
historical knowledge that
semi-secret
no one else
Oh, I
has.
see.
organizations like either that I really don't know that much about the American Revolution, or that they are making something up. But that whole welcome to the first level of literati, our mission is to keep the tradition alive. The annotation for this has screenshots and is referencing some sort of promotional video.
Yeah, there were teaser
Yeah.
videos released.
The
for
introduction
album.
for this song follows the story of Joe LaFolly,
Yeah.
who
Oh, yeah, I
uses a
should've
device
rewatched that.
called a future scope, a tool that allows him to see into the future while not much is known about his true task. We see throughout the series, I still don't know, I couldn't find the series, or no, I don't know what it's referencing. He's using it to see the future of his son, Sebastian, which is the name printed on River's shirt in the Back to the Shack music video.
And he wore it on tour as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott wore a cast on that tour because he broke his arm.
As his costume of
It's all
someone who
coming
was in an
together.
accident.
Rivers is Sebastian, and he broke Brian's arm.
Scott.
Scots. Please, Gavin.
Wait, how many of the Weezers are there?
Let's count him down.
Okay, let's see.
Who are they all?
Yeah, let's
Current or
Yeah, who are the current Weezers right now?
yeah, we've
Current,
got. Are we doing this as a bit where we pretend we don't know them, or are we actually going to list them off?
I think we're gonna say them in funny ways.
Okay.
Like Lakes Cuomo. That's a funny thing to say.
Streams.
Or Scott Alterer.
Yeah, that shit. You took it from me.
Sorry, I keep going with all the
Why
good
did you
ones.
take that?
Yeah. Brian,
Brian Wilson.
thing that goes ding.
Oh my god, this is the worst episode we've ever done. So, as per usual, we've ranked all the tracks on this album for your benefit. Gavin has participated in the ranking. Gavin, how did you find it your first time ranking some tracks?
Oh, it was a lot more difficult than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. But also because I don't care that much, it was not too hard.
Holy shit, what an asshole.
Yeah, I just realized I probably care too much. I'm sure it really shows in the final product.
Having an outside perspective really makes me realize how bad this podcast is.
I'm sure actually listening to the podcast would make me realize how bad it is.
So, I'll give a quick track listing, as I always do, except for that one time I forgot. You've got, starting with track 1, Ain't Got Nobody, Back to the Shack, Eulogy for a Rock Band, Lonely Girl, fun joke, I've Had It Up to Here, The British Are Coming, Da Vinci, Go Away, Cleopatra, Foolish Father, and the Future Scope trilogy, which we will be discussing as one unit, controversially. We'll talk about it in a bit. But that is divided into 3 separate tracks: The Wasteland, Anonymous, and Return to Ithaca.
I'm glad that you said Lonely Girl was a funny joke. Otherwise, I wouldn't have recognized you as such.
Just a little bit I do. Fascinatingly, and this is fascinating, the first songs, I kind of tipped my hand there, that we're going to discuss on our ranking, we have a tie.
At the bottom?
A tie, race to the bottom, baby.
Wow!
Or, as we recently dubbed them, a trolley problem.
What a soundscape we create.
This is going to be our favorite episode and no one else's.
Ooh, great reference, Chris.
Yeah, no one else, like Weezer. Like no one else listens to a podcast about Weezer. So yeah, as we discussed,
insulting all 20 of our fans.
as we discussed,
Generous.
as we discussed last episode, or was it 2 episodes ago? Our former shootouts are now trolley problems. We're deciding which song should be run over by a train.
Which fat song we're going to push in front of the trolley.
Exactly.
Run over by a Range Rover. Another Weezer reference.
What's that?
What's that song? It's
I don't know.
My brain is working overtime or whatever.
In the mall?
Shut up. No, it's off Ratitude Deluxe. I
Yeah,
wanna
like
say.
In the Mall is.
That's off Ratitude Regular.
And Deluxe. It's on both.
Swallow this mic. and
Actually, you
choke
know
and
what?
die.
Ratitude Deluxe, they put a second CD in, so
Let's
it's
talk
still
about
on
it.
the regular
Wait, but
CD.
speaking of Ratitude, this is their second time having a monster on their album front, right?
You consider a dog a monster?
I would say
Did you see that dog?
I would say third if you include Hurley.
Oh my god.
I was going to say fourth if you consider Japanese people as monsters.
I was gonna say fourth if you consider Rivers Cuomo and a mustache and a cow.
I was going to say sixth if you consider Matt Sharp a monster.
I was gonna say something.
Wait, but back to Rivers, Mustache Rivers. I was watching I, Tonya the other day, and Tanya's husband in that movie looks a lot like Rivers in a mustache. Look it up sometime, not during the pod or not during the
Ooh,
pod.
I
but-
watched.
We are
Who's that?
notorious.
I
for it.
watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and that guy,
Jim Carrey?
Jim
like
Carrey?
Pinkerton level era Rivers to a T, the entire movie.
Oh
long.
yeah, I could see
Yeah,
it. I
we
saw
talked
the
He's got
poster.
that
His
hair
haircut.
combed right
Yeah.
down. He's got like a lot of times like the little white shirt sticking out of the dark sweater.
sweater.
The kind of
Nice.
like the, abashed nerd the whole time.
Yeah.
Just a
Yes.
fun little thing that I noticed.
Yeah, all I remembered was, Tonya Harding's husband in that movie is played by a weird actor. It's Sebastian Stan. Weird, right?
Sebastian,
the son of
the son of what's
Joe
the thing?
Laffel.
What? Oh, right, from the album.
Joe
So,
LaFolly.
so the first tracks we're going to discuss, the first songs that we're going to talk about, we're now 80 hours in, are Go Away and Back to the Shack.
Who could have ever foreseen this?
I was interested but not surprised to see Back to the Shack down here. I wasn't sure how what people would feel about it, but I guess there is a general consensus. This song is like some pretty hardcore pandering, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are your
It's
thoughts on
almost literally fan service.
that? Yeah.
I like how they talk about Pat in the song.
The line.
Weezer song about Pat.
I was gonna say the line. Maybe I should play the lead guitar and Pat should play the drums. Just enters my head on a regular basis, every single, almost daily, and it's really.
I
You should get that checked.
I know exactly what you mean, actually. Like, the exact same thing happens to me.
Which
It's a
is-
great line.
Yeah,
know
and it's just
what's-
I've never heard someone recount the assortment of who plays what
Yeah,
in a band.
talk about their configuration onto, like, it is, like, the most self-referential song ever.
It really is.
I mean,
But
the first half of this album is just endless, like self-references.
It's true.
what? Yeah.
But this is, like,
I've had it up to here.
yeah. But this, and arguably eulogy for rock band. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it.
Maybe.
It's not a very good song is the first thing. Well, like, for example, like, I've had it up to here is similarly self-referential,
But
it's a really
a
good
good
song,
song.
and so it's like, yeah, this is cool. And whereas Back to the Shack, like, it's not a great song on its surface. Like, it's just kind of like it's sort of sluggish and sludgy.
I mean, yeah, like this was the first album for me where I was really like into Weezer, like constantly keeping up with everything they did when new stuff was coming out. Like just like a bit before this album came out, that's when I really like jumped in the deep end. So I remember hearing this song like when it first came out, and I was like, this is good. I like this a lot, especially because like at that point, like I wasn't really big into Hurley. I'd never given it a chance, but like kind of like Red Album shit and like Ratitude stuff, I was like, this is a very welcome change. But yeah, I thought it was really good at first, and then when the rest of the album came out, like I was like, oh, in comparison to this stuff, like this is not a great song.
Yeah, I think it was like a really good. It was a single, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the lead
yeah, it was the
single.
first
It
single.
was an incredible lead single.
Yeah.
In that, like, when I first heard it, I was super excited to listen to more Weezer.
Yeah, it's like a mission statement for the album. More
It,
than
and
anything.
it really accomplished that as like a song, but
Definitely.
maybe not so much as
Yeah.
a good song.
It definitely drags.
Yeah, I like that part near the end where they go, "We belong in the rock world. There is so much left to do. If we die in obscurity, oh well, at least we raised some hell."
I like that,
Which is
the way
so-
he sings it.
Oh, he sings it great.
Oh, his voice
it's
is
a great
great on the
transition
song.
between sections of the song. And this album, this first half especially, like it starts with that guy on the radio or whatever being like, "Rock is dead. Guitars are dead."
yeah.
That's
And
so
then-
cringe though. That just makes me think of like fucking like dad rock or something like that. Or like classic rock.
Really?
Yeah, and they kind of do it again later on Beach Boys.
Yeah,
Kinda
yeah. They
like
pull out
their
yeah.
dad being like, "Oh, do you have to play like that?" Anyway,
Yeah, the recorded. I thought that was interesting. Like
The abusive father.
the one thing you will say, I will say about this album, regardless of whether how much of a concept album you consider it to be, is like it has sort of, it feels cohesive. It has through lines. There are some songs that transition into each other, which is not a very Weezer-ish thing to do. Like, I mean, I can only really think of what's that song on Pinkerton where like
Oh,
Falling for You.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like one of the only times I can really remember them doing a transition.
Which is incredible, by the way.
yeah, it works.
In
really-
case you haven't heard our Pinkerton episode.
I would say they almost do that better here than on Pinkerton. Like the songs are clearly meant to lead from one
yeah,
into the
they're more
into the
like
other.
thematic through lines.
And all that, it felt kind of bad. It was weird chopping these songs up into a list and ranking them because it was like it feels wrong to take them out of the order
Yeah.
that they are
Right,
in. Whereas
absolutely.
almost
I think,
every single
yeah,
other
for
Weezer album, it's like here's a collection of songs, and it's
Yeah.
like that one's better than that one. But this one is like they are meant to be listened to in
Yeah,
this order.
Definitely.
at least most of them. I feel like a couple of them, like maybe it's just because I don't like Go Away, but I feel like that one is like, just get her out of here.
Right, but I feel like a lot of the value on those songs are providing, like, without slowing down the tempo, like keeping it sprightly, keeping it like fun paced. It's more like a less hard note. It's more soothing, so you can like, I don't know, for a general audience listener.
Yeah, I mean, like
a kid.
it's an their album cuts.
Definitely.
Like I feel that way about Lonely
Well,
Girl.
Go
so.
Away wasn't an album cut. Like they put out a music video for
Really,
it.
Yeah, it was a single.
Let's shift here and talk about Go Away because I really like this song.
I like the music video.
I think
for
I'm
it.
the only one.
It's funny, the music video.
Everyone else had it ranked low. Yeah, Weird was not released as a single, but was inexplicably released as a music video. Doesn't list, so it's featuring Bethany Cosentino.
Constantino.
There's no N though. I think it's
Cosentino.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't
from-
bother looking.
from the band Best Coast, which is a great band.
Yeah.
I think at least.
There's no Weezer, but
Well, who is right? Only Weezer is.
there's a couple of them.
But yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. Is this the first, other than just Throughout the Love of My Dreams, which is not on an album? Is this the first album song that has a featured singer?
Love is the answer.
Well, what about?
Oh yeah.
I Can't Stop Partying.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna
that's
say.
that's why I made the distinction of singer as opposed to rapper.
Definitely
You
the
could
first
make
like
the
female
argument.
voice on a Weezer track.
Well, no,
other
no,
than
Love is the Answer fully is.
Yeah, Love is the Answer off of
Gratitude.
Gratitude features a Hindu vocalist or Hindi.
Some lady.
Some lady, truly.
Also, that song was shit. So, in case you didn't hear our.
Yeah, go back to our other
Gratitude.
episode and we'll.
Oh yeah, did
think
we?
it's like-
Have we talked about that video you showed me, Chaz, on the podcast?
Oh my
yet?
gosh.
There is. He's called like the music critic.
The rock critic.
The rock critic.
Wow, he sounds cool.
He sounds cool already.
He wears a fedora. Oh,
I'm not going
you
to
know.
judge him on his appearance. However, I will
Cut out
judge
the
him.
fat part.
on-
I'm leaving the
And wears a fedora. Go on, Tyler.
No, he's made a bunch of long ass videos about Weezer. Some of them are interesting. I disagree with a shit ton of his opinions, but
but
you know what? He goes in depth, and I appreciate that there's more Weezer content out
there
there.
definitely needs to be more people talking about Weezer.
Yeah.
And he's talking. Chaz storms into my room one day and just shoves his phone in front of my face and starts playing this video. I don't mean this to say you're a rude person, Chaz. I'm emphasizing how bad this video is. It's this guy talking about Gratitude, and he's going. There's a consensus on Gratitude, and he kind of sticks to it. He's going, "Oh, it's not good. All these
Everything's
songs are
shit. It sucks."
made very well. It sucks." But then he gets to the section where he talks about Love is the Answer, and it's playing in the background, and he's going. It's just him going, "Oh, like,
Wait,
this is
hold
actually
on. What is this?
hold the phone. This is actually good.
This is good. This is like
This is well made.
This
I'm
is
enjoying
really
this.
good.
I didn't like the other songs, but Love is the Answer is pretty all right.
you can tell there was effort.
There was
put in.
effort.
Sweet, life-giving effort.
And this other band covered it, and they actually did
No,
a pretty...
Sugar Ray, they did it first.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They did it
And-
first, even though Rivers wrote it.
We talked about that.
Yeah,
And
we
Sugar,
talked about-
and he's praising their renders. Like, Sugar Ray did a pretty good job on their album.
But Weezer.
And we're just like, what is this guy talking about? This is...
In my opinion, that is by far the worst. You know what? We're not talking about it. Let's
Keep it moving.
Anyway, that was a bad
we haven't even
moment.
gotten down the first track.
link in
yet.
the description to that video.
Yeah, link in the
No,
annotations.
I don't want to bring him any traffic.
true.
We should censor his name.
There's a guy called the Beep. He's a fat fuck. Okay,
His name is and wears a fedora.
Please censor out the first fat, but leave the second one. I will laugh so
So that they
hard.
know I was saying fat.
But yeah, so
I'm
Go Away.
rude.
I think it's a good song. I think that it is musically very similar to a Best Coast song. I think that
Do you think
it's a
that
direct.
might be because it's got a member of Best Coast in it?
Yes, that's exactly why I think that.
I like it, and I think it's a good song, but when I listen to it, I think this is the most disposable song on the album.
That's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
an
it
Doesn't
unreasonable
contribute to the themes. And this is the first Weezer album that I think has a theme that like almost every song like comments on and builds on, which is something that they have never ever done before.
Yeah.
And then kind of in the middle of like ramping up to this very serious part, they kind of cut to the song, which is a good song about a relationship, and I think it's really interesting how they sang both sides of this one encounter,
Yeah.
which is something pop songs don't
Right.
usually do.
It's like somebody that I used to know.
Who? Anyway,
I understand that viewpoint. I just think like like when I think it's like, oh, like this song or Back to the Shack, which is a better song? Like, there's really no comparison in terms of which is a better song. Like, Back to the Shack only works on the level of like,
In terms of the album.
yeah, as a mission statement for the album. Like,
To some extent, yeah.
Isn't it weird that we're fighting over the bottom over 2 of the singles?
but Go Away wasn't a single. That's why it's
you
weird.
Could almost argue that
It just
was.
had a video. It had a video, but
Yeah.
it wasn't
All right.
released as
Never mind.
the singles were Back to the Shack,
Shack,
Da Vinci, and Cleopatra, for the record. But
Not in that order.
it is weird though, and it fits in with the whole Weezer singles thing that we've talked about many times
Yeah.
about how
Weezer
their
picking-
lead singles are rarely good and their single choices in general are questionable, which we'll talk about later, I think.
Devoid of all context, if it's just like in a room, oh, Go Away or Back to the Shack, which I guess you could argue is the point of a whole making a list.
Yeah, this is the room. This is the room.
Yeah. Go Away is a stronger song because it is that very cliche chord progression. It's very cliche.
Too cliche for me.
I would
think.
say it's too cliche, but then they do the whole
Fair.
thing where the guy and the girl sing their different parts. I'd say
That's half
Yeah,
the cliche.
I think with it, it's just it feels a little too wimpy.
yeah.
yeah.
If
Yeah.
there was something that could make it have more edge, I would like it a bit more. But I
Yeah.
do really like, Rivers singing with the guest vocalist. I think that dynamic's great. I think a lot of the instrumentation is sweet. Like I had the bridge melodies, harmonies, and guitar layer. When it all comes together, it like sounds really nice. But it's just a little wimpy.
I was more thinking of it as like it's a nice little palate cleanser. I feel like
Sure,
it's
yeah.
a nice contrast to the rest of the album. I really like the dynamic of having the 2 vocalists. I think Rivers singing with a female vocalist sounds really good. I just love My Dreams is like one of my
when he's doing
favorite
the
Weezer
backing
songs.
vocals at
It's
that
amazing.
point. Oh,
I know, right? And just like
Save it for the pod.
it's a very self
save it for being alone in my bedroom. Oh,
it's a
dirty
very
comment.
self-contained song.
Yeah.
With respect to the rest of the album, and so I understand why that might be like off-putting, especially since like it's not an amazing song, but I really like it. So, with that being said,
Time to flip the switch.
or not flip the switch, as the case may be. I think in this situation,
The switch
trolley
is stuck in the middle at this
trolley
point.
is moving along normally, and you just have to pick a side.
Yeah.
So, as per usual, I'm gonna count down from 3, and we're gonna do 3, 2, 1, and then we're gonna say the song
Okay, I was gonna ask about that.
that we prefer, the
we
song
prefer.
that we
3,
want.
2, 1 song name.
Yes, the song
1,
that
2, 3 or 3, 2,
3,
1?
2, 1.
Well,
The
you'll know
song
as
that
soon as
we
he says
want
the
to
first
live.
number.
So, for example, if the song you were talking about was Undone (brackets the sweater song), you would say 3,
Now, when does this
2,
bracket
1,
close? I'm just gonna
Undone,
cycle through all of the
brackets,
jokes that
sweater
you've
song,
made and-
close bracket.
Okay, there we go. Whew.
So,
Or you could just not mention the parentheses because why
Yeah.
would you?
sure.
And it's part of the song.
Why would you do any of this?
I guess so.
You got
Why
you
would
there.
you listen to Weezer?
I know why. So, is everyone ready? Does everyone understand what we're doing here? We're naming the song
Yeah.
that we think is better, and this will officially
I think I know what to do.
this will officially be put into our canonical list of
This
songs.
will be interesting. There's 4 of us, so it could be a
There could
tie.
be a
How do
tie.
we settle a tiebreaker?
Well, we'll just
fist
see.
fight.
I think we have to. If there is a tie, I think we have to throw out Gavin's opinion. I'm sorry, Gavin.
I'm so okay with that.
That seems like the fairest way to do it.
I don't know about that.
I mean, he's not one of the original garages.
Yeah,
Yuck.
but
Is
that what you
Scott's
call
not an
yourself?
original
No.
bassist, and he still contributes quite a bit to the band.
Okay, well, let's do it first, and then afterwards we'll talk for half
Yeah,
an
we've
hour
been talking
probably
for
about how we're
20
gonna
minutes
decide.
about this stupid shit.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Back to the shack.
Back to the Shack.
All right,
Stop
back to the
doing
shack
bit,
takes
Tyler.
it. I think that was a genuine Tyler if you will.
Yeah, check him out on
I'm on
Spotify.
Spotify.
Yo, beep that out. Beep that out.
Save it for the end.
Okay, so
Save
finally,
it for the trash.
you need to stop. So we've gotten past the first 2 songs.
I think this is why I stopped drinking on the pod.
The number 9 song is "Ain't Got Nobody."
Oh.
Okay.
an interesting spot for it. The opening song of the album, I'll say this to sort of start things off. I think this song would not sound out of place on the Red album.
Not at all.
What do you think about that, Tyler?
Not at all. No, I have it in my notes. This is a mixing qualm I have. I like having mixing problems with albums.
Yeah, you love the...
Pork and Beans comes in down, down, out. You're like, oh, okay, I'm liking it. And then the guitars come in down, out. It is way too loud. The exact same thing happens on this song where there's a very, very, very quiet little cutesy, I can't sleep, go back to bed, everything will be all right in the end. And the guitar's just like slamming and your eardrums blow out and you have to turn the whole thing down. And then we go into this kind of even artsier, more indie opening than Hurley had, because Hurley had the strings kind of tuning up before they get into Memories, and they've got this whole... Sounds like someone on the radio going, rock is dead, guitars are dead, I'm going to LA, all these little snippets.
Yeah, Where Are They Now?
Here's this song, here's this band, The Astronauts, with their song, Ain't Got Nobody, which kind of ties into the
Another
Shadow
possible
video,
concept.
being on the moon.
Yeah, they're
But those like the only two references to the moon.
weird stuff.
Yeah.
Neato.
I think the lyrics shine through with their being short. They cut the shit. You know?
Yeah.
This is my thought. You know, they just like, my daddy loved me. No one could touch me until he went up and left me lonely. That's human nature. We fail each other and keep on searching for another. It's like,
I really like
that.
that.
Sets the stage. It's not the first verse, but it sets the stage like emotionally, conceptually. It really just cut the crap. Stop talking about Rogaine and partying with your friends and just like get to what you're talking about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's a great opener. It's a good song. It's energetic. Like I said, it sounds like a Red album, especially the sort of end part where it goes into sort of like a swing beat almost.
Yeah.
Really reminds me of Dreamin'.
Yeah.
But it's like a better version of Dreamin', kind of.
Oh, they switch
Dreamin's
up
still a
the
great
last
song, though.
chorus.
I wouldn't hate on Dreamin'.
Yeah.
Classic Weezer
Classic
style.
Weezer. Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that end bit reminding you of Red, but I don't see it anywhere else in the song. Like, all of these songs, I think the thing they have most in common is a lot of them have a more like operatic feel. Like, if you listen,
Bombastic, as Pat said.
yeah. But I mean, like, just the way they sing it, like, they go high a lot. They've got a lot of like cool,
Yeah,
like
like
really
ton of
quick,
layers.
glissandos.
yeah, guitar like shit underneath it. Like, just about every song on this album has that. Like, they really show off their technical ability, and this song, it gives you a nice little teaser for it. Like, it shows you, okay, we're gonna do some crazy shit on the guitar, but it doesn't give you like too much. So like throughout the album, they really show off both like with quick stuff and like more melodic stuff too, that makes you like, oh, like it's not just a show offy solo, it's like a
It's a
like,
good solo.
it sounds
It contributes
so
to the
good.
feeling of listening
Exactly.
to the song.
Yeah, it's like Weezer guitar solos are back, and the drums sound awesome on
Yeah,
this.
drums
that
sound
was a huge note for me.
amazing.
Pat's just crushing it on this album.
Yeah.
And the drums are crushing. Like, they are just so loud and in your face and big in the mix. You're talking about the solos, Chris, and I've got a note that's like, when you really listen to the solos, they're just kind of like pentatonic, like do 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 do.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
they're played really fast, and they all just kind of like splutter out. A lot of them, this Ain't Got Nobody one, they hit the high note like do 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 do, like that kind of whole, basically going through this scale. But a bunch of them just kind of like spaz out and like, ugh, that's it. But I still really like all of them.
You know what I've noticed about at least a number of them, because obviously some songs, like the guitar work, it really takes center stage. But for a lot of these songs too, they don't have a solo that feels like a shock to transition into, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like they're just following the vocal melody like on like the Green album or something, where it flows nicely, and it's not just like a very basic solo.
Yeah, and there are parts, like, it really reminds me of Blue almost at certain points, like where the solo will sort of start underneath the end of the chorus.
Yeah.
And then like you'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, we're in a guitar solo now. Like
Yeah.
that really reminds me of like Buddy Holly and stuff like that, where like and I think Say It Ain't So does the same thing. Maybe not. But there's songs on Blue where it's sort of the guitar solo just
Half
sort of-
sections build into each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
everything on this album, like both in a broader album sense and in a song sense, like it just feels like they like have a nice flow to things. Like they're in the pocket.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, in terms of the solo, like the sensation they all give is that they're like outbursts, which is like what the good solos on, like the solos on Blue and Pinkerton sounded like. It sounds like either Brian or Rivers are like kind of in the background. They're just kind of like, like it's just building up, and then like they just like and it bursts out of them. They're just like they just do this whole solo thing, which is always great.
Totally.
What did you guys think about the doots at the end?
Very red again.
Very Walk on the Wild Side.
I feel like those remind me a lot of Ratitude with the like I want to say the Girl Got Hot, where it's like the oh part in the intro. I kind of categorize that stuff in the same sort of cheesy shit as that.
I could do without it.
I think it's cheesy, but I don't think it's like offensively cheesy. Like
It's not bad.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's doesn't like you could do it either way, and I don't think I'd have an opinion on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said when we were listening to this album before we started, like this, like a lot of things, it falls under the category of, do I like this or not? Which is like a classic Weezer thing where it rides the line between like relatable and cringy for a lot of the lyrics, and I feel like a lot of like musically they can sometimes ride that line between like, is this like cool and fun or is it like really stupid? I feel like it lands more in the fun side for me, but I like doo-doos in a lot of songs, even though I know that they're like stupid and very easy to do. But
Chris, a big doo-doo head.
I was gonna say something about you liking doo-doos in your pants or something, but then I realized I've been making way too many awful comments.
I love hearing early drafts of Chaz comments. I like when they do the whole "Ain't Got Nobody" and it's the whole band, and then they cut to just the one guitar like down.
I mean,
the little thing.
We kind of talked about like "Go Away" and "Back to the Shack" kind of being like bad songs. I don't think either of them are bad songs,
Oh,
but like
not at all.
not good songs. But like I feel like for me, this is really the point in the album where it's like, oh shit, like everything else is pretty good. I feel like for me at least, there's a huge power gap between this song and "Back to the Shack." Like where this is a song where I'm like, you know what, this is actually a good song, and I had to kind of make up my mind, be like, oh, which ones are better? Like, does this really deserve the bottom place? And is like the bottom place, aside from obviously those two, like, is that even a bad thing?
yeah, I think that like in my opinion, it goes like "Back to the Shack" at the bottom, and then like 5 songs that are sort of in the middle, and then 5 songs that are kind of at the top. So let's move on to the next song, which is "Lonely Girl." Surprisingly low ranking. for Lonely
Surprisingly
Girl.
low.
Probably because of how low I ranked it.
Also
Well,
me.
You
Again,
asshole.
with these songs, it's really not, oh, this song is good and this song is bad. It's like,
Yeah.
these songs are great.
It's
Absolutely.
just
Song.
Yeah, once again, all Weezer songs are all better than all other songs.
Yes.
Oh, wow, you actually
yeah.
listened to the
That's
first
okay.
episode.
Ooh.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what I had written here was like, you guys are talking about "Go Away" as like a very album cut that doesn't really like do much for you. This is that for me.
you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to
Actually-
say 2 words. Agree or disagree. Classic green.
Gotta
I
disagree.
could see it.
all right.
I think it feels
know.
like a green song. Like it could be a
When
song
I
that they
think, when I
wrote
listen to it,
for
I think
green,
this is
but
so green.
it could have been a song that they wrote for green, but like they performed it in the style of "Everything Will Be Alright" in the end.
Right. I like the vocal performance doesn't
Yeah.
feel very green to me.
The thing about this song for me is you guys said, or at least Chris said that he felt like this was more of an album cut, and that was definitely a feeling I had at first with this album. When it came out, I mean, I loved the album. I thought it was a great song, but it didn't really stick a whole lot with me like some of the other songs did. And then like I listened to the album a lot when it first came out, and then like occasionally throughout the last couple of years. But then over the last like week or two in preparation for this, I've been listening to the album a ton, and this time it's really stuck out as like a strong track to me. This was not the only song that like ended up doing that, being like a song where I thought it was more of an album cut, and then it kind of jumped out as a really strong track for me.
I like it, but you know what the one big sticking point is that just kind of gets under my skin and brings the rest of the song down? is that part where he kind of whispers like, I'm lonely. I just don't like that.
I like that. That sat well with me.
So
I don't know.
homely.
And also at the end he says, I'm blurry. Like, what are you talking
He
about?
needs to polish his lens.
Yeah.
Like
But that would make everything else blurry.
good point.
Unless he's looking
In
at
the
himself.
mirror.
Yeah, he's taking a selfie.
Is this one of the reflection songs about himself? No, it's definitely one of the Bella whatever.
Yeah,
so-
Belladonna.
I think it's just a little too sparse. I do like that part where after the solo, it cuts away to that one guitar playing the part, and he sings, I know you're scared, I know you're sad. I like his vocal delivery on that. But I don't know, like Gavin said about Go Away, like it just comes across for me like kind of wimpy.
Yeah, like
It definitely-
I think that everything, like, there are other songs on this album that do what it does better. I mean, I think Ain't
Yeah.
Got Nobody does it better even. I
Yeah,
would say.
Yeah.
I would agree.
for
My,
me-
my main gripe with it was the like note thing, like ba na na na. It's like the whole song. It
That is
wears
quite a
on
bit of
me.
the song. This song, I threw this song kind of in the same category as Lonely Girl, that wimpy thing.
Yeah, I'm a
and
lonely
kind of
girl.
a, not throwaway song, but one of the weaker songs on the album. But just really recently, like, it's been growing on me a lot. I just think at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to, like, which one of these songs, like, do I want to hear? Like, which one of them, like, which songs, like, get me, like, yeah, and put, like, a smile on my face and get me, like, you know,
Happy.
this thing you were moving my
You're
head.
bobbing your head and smiling right
Chaz
now.
is mimicking being happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can only ever mimic it.
yeah.
Great use of,
Pat.
yes, I was going to say great use of
Drums.
kind of drum roll for the, like, we've got like a Wheel of Fortune of like elements of good Weezer songs.
Oh yeah.
Great use
Yeah.
of Brian's backing vocals.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a big one for me. If
this-
you guys listen to our podcast much, that's always one of the two things I bring out is the great Brian backing
Is
vocals.
this a song where you can really hear him, like, right after the bridge? Like,
I'd say
what song
Foolish
is that?
Father is the one where he
Yeah,
Foolish
really,
Father,
yeah.
you
Where
really
you
stayed.
But
really-
this whole album makes
Yeah.
great use of
It's
Yeah,
a
there's
great,
some
and
great-
great use of
having some
Brian
good
is
fun with
like
this album.
not that much Brian, but like right near the end, just pepper him in there, just whoop,
Yeah,
whoop,
some
there you
paprika.
I was like, screw it. I'm going to. I'm not gonna take notes for like this one, really, like song by song notes. Like, I know all these songs so well. I know these ones like the back of my hand. Like this one, I know the songs like as well as I know ones off Blue or Pink or Ten.
Yeah, that was Hurley for me. Like,
Yeah.
I was the same thing. I was like, I don't need to take notes on this. I don't need to, like, I didn't
Yeah.
even listen to it that much leading up to it.
I listened to this one quite a bit leading it up to it, just to formulate the list. But for this one, I didn't take notes on like the first half, and then I just kind of got bored while we were listening to it of just like doing nothing. So I started taking notes. Now that I've had a bit to drink, I kind of forget a lot of the shit I was gonna say. So I'm kind of regretting that now. But part of it almost reminds me of Why Bother, sort of the chord progression, like the way kind of just the power chords hit, and then
Yeah,
they keep
yeah,
like
yeah.
dun, dun, dun,
Absolutely.
dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, a lot
dun.
of this album definitely, I mean, obviously that was what they were trying to do, but gives you strong Blue Pinkerton vibes. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the songs wouldn't sound out of place on those albums.
Lots of overarching things, and like White too, there's just like a lot of tiny little moments where you just go, "Oh, that's classic Pinkerton." I was reading about they talk about Lonely Girl in this interview, and then they just kind of go on a ramble a bit. And Brian's going, "We were learning. They were recording at how do you say his name? Jimmy Iovine.
Jimmy Iovine, yeah.
Yeah, they were recording at one of his studios. They were like working songs out, and they said we were just goofing around. He said we were learning Poison's "Talk Dirty to Me" for the Sunset Strip music thing, and we wanted to pay homage to the Sunset Strip scene. We were learning it at the studio owned by Jimmy Iovine, and we're just having a hard time with the intricacies of "Talk Dirty to Me," which is funny to me because Chaz and I'm pretty sure, have roared through that song.
Thousands of times.
Maybe not thousands,
No.
but many years ago in high school with little to no problems.
That was like one of the first songs that I not learned on guitar, but like that me, Chaz, or me, myself, Tyler, and my younger brother, the three of us would get together and play it together.
And I distinctly remember us playing it and going like from beginning to end and looking at it at the end going like, we killed it. Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Like even like the solo bit which sounds like some like 80s glam metal shredding, like not that hard. Even like that solo bit at the end either.
A lot of those 80s runs, you realize they're not as complicated to play as they are to listen to. Anyway,
Yeah.
he's going, we're having a hard time with the intricacies of Talk Dirty to Me. And in walks Dr. Dre while we were rehearsing it. He said, we were
shit.
just butchering it. He walked in, took a look at us, shook his head, and walked away. I love that image of Dr. Dre walking in on Weezer being like,
Yeah.
and walking out. And I love that it's Talk Dirty to Me, which is like one of the first songs I learned to play. I don't know what their problem was with
On
this.
this episode of In the Garage, we find out that Brian is actually shit at guitar.
Well, continuing this quote,
Ooh.
he's talking about working with Rick. He said the thing about Rick is that Ocasek is that he said we would play different when we heard that he was on the way to the studio. Like something about his presence just like whips us into better shape.
Sounds great for a producer.
When Rick Ocasek says something is lame, he said something specific was lame, and I'll get to that with a later song.
I know
I
the
know
song.
exactly what
You
you're
You
talking
trust
about.
it, he'll say, that is the single worst idea I've ever heard. And then when he says that's fantastic, you really believe him. I believe him because he also told me that I suck.
And they included it anyways.
But
It's
we'll get to
the
it.
introduction of the next song on our list,
Oh shit!
Da Vinci.
Whoa.
Very interesting song. Not one I had ranked very highly. This is a song that I think is the most Hurley, Ratitude, Red era sounding song on the album. Agree or disagree, Tyler?
I'm going to have to disagree because it's
Some,
got a lot of elements to it, but I think, for one, the central guitar riff kind of reminds me a lot of
Pork and beans.
Pinkerton.
Oh, El Scorcho.
El Scorcho.
Yeah. I kind of was getting some vibes from that as well. Not that it sounds alike, but that it's kind of quirkier, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which it doesn't. The quirkiness of this song, I don't think, resonates as well with me as because like El Scorcho really is like a weird, quirky song. And this is like a fun, poppy, quirky song, right?
It's quite poppy.
Yeah.
This is the thing we were talking about. This has a very, very like, oh, we're a quirky indie band. This is the intro to our song. The intro doesn't really have anything else to do with the rest of the song.
Yeah.
Like I think the motif kind of comes back in for
Yeah, the whistle comes back a bit later, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, they just do the intro again later in the song. How do you guys feel about the whistle? Do you think Rick was right, or do you think Weezer was right to put it in?
Gavin.
Team Rick for sure. I think the whistle is kind of dumb. You could have I would have done it on like a glockenspiel or a different instrument or a synthesizer, like anything else probably would have.
Because it's the whistling and the acoustic guitar together.
Yeah.
It's like they're really like gap-toothed cowboys sitting out like at a campfire,
Yeah, like
doing a bit.
Yeah, I'm just generally not a fan of whistling on a song.
Unless it's Peter, Bjorn, and Joanne.
True, or unless it's Foster the People, Don't Stop.
ooh, good call. So we're all Team Rick on
But
this.
not Pumped Up Kicks.
Honestly, I kind of like it.
I don't have a problem with that. That's like a Green era solo, but instead of a guitar, it's a whistle solo.
Yeah.
Let's just whistle the melody.
The fact I don't mind it, but I should like it a lot.
Wait,
I think
whistle
I'm like
intro?
the.
I don't like
I know I shouldn't like it, but I think it's mainly like the drums coming in too. Like they do a little whistle thing, and like you hear the hi-hat, like, tss, and they do it again, and then the drums kick in, and I know in my head that is really corny and also not necessary to the song at all.
No.
The rest of the song stands fine
Yeah,
without
that
it.
really isn't unnecessary, like that whistling.
And like we ended up talking about this whistling thing for way longer than we're talking about the actual song. But I hear it and I like it. I'm like,
honestly,
oh yeah.
Well, that part really threw me off on this song. Like, this was another one of those songs where I had it ranked as a lower song. And I thought it was just album filler. And then upon like re-listening to it, I'm just like, this song is really good. But it's always the whistling that held it back for me.
I like that part. The one part that I really do like completely is right at the end when the guitars are kind of freaking out, and you just hear a girl's voice or anything, go, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
Or
just
it's like
like.
you guys, or
Yeah.
is that a different song? There's
I'm
some-
pretty sure the girl's going, that was amazing. But it could be you guys.
I feel like there's a different song where she's like, you guys are great.
Yeah.
There's
It's
lots,
like, why not? Just add it into your
lots
own.
of lots of little chime-ins in the song.
Someone be like, 5 stars.
How do you guys feel about the lyrics of this song?
Oh, I was just gonna ask that.
'Cause
Perfect.
we were talking earlier about how probably I'd say by far the worst lyric on this album. I looked you up on ancestry.com. There was no record of dad or of mom.
Of dad or of mom.
Yeah, like so clumsy, classic Weezer. Like you really reached for that rhyme.
But after that,
yeah, ignoring that, how do you feel about the chorus specifically?
The chorus is like
I dig it.
incredible.
I wouldn't say it's incredible.
It's
I like
one
it.
of my favorite choruses on this. It's probably my.
It's just a great example of Rivers finally. Hurley, he broke out of whatever shell he was in for all of these albums before. And he's just it's just the fact that he's reaching out and grabbing all these topics you wouldn't expect him to reach for a song
Yeah.
topic, and just doing it and it flowing together way better.
Yeah.
Like Da Vinci couldn't. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. Well,
Da Vinci,
I mean,
even Da Vinci couldn't paint you, and Stephen
Stephen
Hawking can't explain
You know
Rosetta
why?
Stone cannot translate you. I'm at a loss for it. It's like, it's just refreshing when someone moves through that many references that quickly.
Yeah, I
I'm pretty
really
sure,
like that.
like there's that one line, you are sui generis or whatever.
Sui generis. Or something. It's
Uh,
Latin.
Yeah, Latin for in a class of your own, which is like, oh, that's just some out there reference that you would have to go look up.
I think
Unless you
it's a good
knew
call.
Latin, but it fits in, like it serves the purpose of the song. And I'm going to talk about this a lot when
Yeah.
we get to White, but he just gets really enjoyable with all of his like his word choice.
Snappy,
and it's
yeah.
like when he's got his like nice, snappy, clever word choice, it's like the actual song is like, oh, you don't get this girl and you think she's super cool.
Yeah.
But the way you describe it becomes
Yeah.
very interesting as you use more
Yeah, I mean,
interesting terms.
you guys said that. So do you think that's the worst line on the album? I mean, I'm usually the first one to call out Weezer and be like, no, this is a disgusting line.
You are.
And like, I'm like, oh, every time I hear it, and it completely ruins the song for me. But I actually like every lyric in this song. I don't know why, but that lyric works for me.
I think the sentiment works better than the lyric.
I
don't-
also
see, I
like the
don't even think
specificity of it.
I don't even
Like,
think there's.
It's
I don't
very
even.
specific.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
specific.
It's the 2014 equivalent of I went to your room and read your diary. It's like I
Yeah.
looked you up on
Oh yeah.
ancestry.com. But if he had rhymed it with anything less clumsy, like
Than
there was no
dad or
record
mom.
of dad or
I-
of mom.
See, I don't
generally-
even. I don't think it even sounds clumsy. It's usually when I think stuff sounds like clumsy or clunky, I'm thinking of like they're forcing words that like don't rhyme. Like, oh, when I was younger, I used to go and push cows over. Oh, just kidding, I didn't do that or whatever. But my friends did.
Good song. No,
Shit song, first of all.
I generally speaking, I just hate when people talk about the internet in songs. Does
Yeah.
that make any
Yeah.
sense?
Well,
It's
I
just
mean,
like, ugh.
I always kind of had an aversion to like people talking about like modern technology and songs, right? Like, because I feel like that's the kind of stuff that gets dated really quickly. Although we're 4 years out almost, and I don't think it's dated. I think it was works just as well as it did back then.
if you don't like references to the internet,
Yeah.
then it's a reference to the internet. But as far as references go, like, you know, I'm sure there were a ton of lyrics that like MySpace. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There
Just
are
like
lots of
that.
MySpace.
Well, I mean,
But,
it took me for a while to even like accept like texting and cell phone references in songs.
Like ancestry.com is a website that is like a public database. It's not trying
yeah,
to be
it's
cool.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. It's not a social network or anything like that. That's
Exactly.
very true. Yeah,
That's not defending it as like as a moment in the song.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know,
No, the one line I really like is I couldn't put it in a novel. I wrote a page, but it was awful.
The way,
The way that he sings it too is just
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I was-
good.
It's not like it caught me by surprise when I first heard it. Like it made me laugh.
yeah,
Like,
this is something I feel like you haven't really gotten a lot from Weezer since Pinkerton. Just like
Yeah.
the way he sings stuff. Usually it seems like he's singing it very straightforward, but on this one it feels like Rivers is putting in a lot of like effort, sweet life giving.
oh shit. Yeah, it's like
no, just and he doesn't just sing it the first way you'd think he would sing it. He like puts like
there's a
emotion
ton of that
and like
all over the album.
morphs almost the words, like the way he sings like this is like a reference to like a more recent person. I feel like it's easier to get away with like a reference to Da Vinci or someone that's like got their place set in history and everyone knows about. They're just like a household name.
Cleopatra.
Well, yeah, or like Cleopatra. Yeah. But when he brings in like Stephen Hawking, like the way he sings like Stephen Hawking,
can't explain you.
Man, every time I go, I'm like, oh shit! Like
it's really.
And then the second half of it when Brian comes in.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about with like there being a fine line with Weezer. Like, there's a fine line between lyrics being like idiosyncratic and weird and cool, or like just dumb as shit. Yeah. And I feel like they're in a good spot at this point.
But man, like, what'd you guys think about kind of the bridge, the way it transitions back into the chorus where they're kind of just holding the one guitar note and then sliding it up? Like, they're really showing off like technical, and I guess that wouldn't be technical ability at that part, but just like to kind of write things differently.
Yeah,
I guess, and like
they're
like,
flexing their musical muscles like way more than they are on.
Yeah. No. As an album of the whole, but I'm talking about like the one specific guitar note that's just kind of holding it with the vibrato, sort of like underneath when they're going back into the chorus from the bridge.
Oh yeah.
Whew.
That bridge is sweet too.
Yeah.
And they've got the name of the record in there.
And a great movie I watched recently, Bridge of Spies.
Was that good?
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Okay.
Very, very classic old school Spielberg historical drama. But very entertaining.
Now, this song, even though it is silly, I do like how even part of it still builds on that theme of the passage of time.
Yeah.
And 'cause with this little part where it goes, we've come so far, now here we are.
Yeah.
We made it through the night. I know we will be stronger still.
It's a really good bridge. I feel like Weezer's really hit and miss with bridges. Sometimes I'm like, I get that you need a third part that's not the chorus or the verse, and like sometimes they miss with it. But I think this is one time. I mean, obviously, there's many times on the album, but I think this is one of the stronger bridges on this album.
And I think it goes back to what we were saying before about this album having a really strong hold on its transitions. Like, all the transitions are really smooth. And whenever I think about the chorus, like, I hear it transitioning from the bridge into the chorus, into that final outro part with the piano when it gets so big. And it's like... It's just like it's like anthemic at that point with that.
Exactly. A lot of this feels like almost like arena rock, like or like Queenie, like the way that Rivers is hitting crazy notes on that I don't think you really hear too much from him. For like he goes not on this song, but on the album as a whole. I'm talking about now.
The scope gets bigger in like every way, not only musically, but the fact that he's name dropping Da Vinci, Rosetta Stone, Stephen Hawking.
The page that was awful. That one, the look of disappointment on Tyler's face was better than any roaring laughter I could have got.
I'm going to talk now.
Okay.
Lyrically, he's broadening his scope. There's a sense...
Feature scope.
Let's just box out Tyler for the rest of the episode.
Sorry. I heard you say it once and I let it go, and then you said it again. And
I know, the first time I was like, no, I'm not going to make that reference. But I'm glad it wasn't too low for you.
We got the sound of Chaz slapping my thigh on mic. I'm sorry, Tyler. Please go. It's so hot in here.
Yeah.
Musically, they are broadening their horizons. Lyrically, he's reaching out too, and there's a sense that for once, really in the life of Weezer, Rivers is like kind of looking out over the course of human history.
Yeah.
In like a not very pretentious way. He's fitting Weezer in the sense that he is fitting Weezer into like the story of rock and roll, which he definitely believes is on the downturn. In the same way, he's fitting his own emotions in this like huge. He's name dropping Cleopatra, Da Vinci, like these greats. And it doesn't come off as pretentious. He's talking about kind of the flow of history.
Yeah, he's not trying to make like intricate references that like people won't get or something like that just to make himself seem like...
No, it fits his age.
Like a mystery of the universe.
It fits like who he is at this point in his life. Like, I feel like it makes a lot of sense that he's writing these songs at this point in his life.
Yeah,
and
like-
every single song comments on the passage of time and the impermanence of everything in a different, interesting way. And by the end, you feel like he has made a point that each song, almost every song, was required to make the point that he was making.
Right.
Yeah, something I want to just touch on quickly that Gavin brought up about 10 minutes ago before we got derailed by cutting off
Yeah, I'm
Tyler.
sorry, I started talking.
No, when you talk about like when you mentioned the kind of it's like smooth transitions and stuff, and
Yeah.
everything flows really well. Like it should be like mentioned that this is not a very like this isn't an obvious transition where it's like, oh wow, the bridge just goes really well back into the chorus. This is like they layered stuff and like play it differently
No,
to
these
bring
transitions are interesting and they are not obvious.
Yes. So they're not only do they work really well, but they're not just the obvious route to go with, right? Like they put work into them. I'm not going to make that comment again, but the life-giving effort one
Thank you for not making it.
and then making it.
Okay, we've talked a lot about this song.
It's a good song.
Justifiably
Yeah,
so.
shit,
is
like
it?
this came in pretty low. compared-
Yeah.
I had it as my last song.
Oh, dude. Yeah, true.
After
this is my
talking about it, I have
number
a
3.
higher opinion of it.
Same.
Definitely.
I
Like
feel
here,
like that'll
I
be-
do too. It's
That's-
pretty
I
disposable,
usually-
but I find it very charming.
See, I used to think of this as a disposable one, but now we're not gonna. Actually, one last thing. I know you briefly mentioned it. The little guitar bit at the end, like in the fade out, or not the fade out, but you know, like at the end of the
Yeah,
song.
the guitar
song,
noodling. At the
Yeah,
end.
Outro.
Like I would never consider that to be like part of a song, like any other song, just some like random ass guitar noodling at the end. But this one, I actually
Feels
enjoy
very
it, and
appropriate,
I think
yeah.
it holds like. I don't know if it's just what it means to me because like back when this album came out, like it was in the fall, and I just remember it really reminds me of walking. I mean, the whole album does, but especially this part, just walking around campus in the fall, like
Oh, this is a
listening to
very
that.
fall
When it's like, you know, you've got like it's not too cold out, but you got the sweater on, all the leaves are orange, some wind blowing the leaves.
It's a good vibe.
Yeah,
I like wind.
yeah.
I love some wind right now.
Artificial wind making machine, but it makes too much noise, so. we're
But
not using it.
let's move on. There's a nice bit of symmetry here. 2 middle to late album songs that are named after historical figures. We've got Cleopatra coming in at number 6.
Oh, too low.
Yeah.
This song gets to me in a way that not a lot of songs do. Like it like skips all of the outer cynical shells.
Yeah.
And just like right to the core, you're just like, oh, just the way he sings. One word, it's just Cleopatra.
Patera.
He sings it wrong.
Patera.
He inserts the
Extra A.
sound in there.
Yeah.
But the way he does it is just, even that alone is just great. And also the rest of the song is, in my mind, pretty incredible.
I really like this song. This was the second single off the album. So it was a song that got a lot of play for me beforehand. Then when the album came out, while I was listening to it, I didn't pay it as much attention. So the other songs kind of got ahead because I was more used to this one at that point. But upon like going back to rank it and listening to again after everything's had years to settle, like this song really stands up, I think.
I don't think any other song has as many different conflicting emotions kind of bubbling beneath the surface.
Yeah, it really does, because it's talking about the passage of time, growing older, and then also like a relationship falling
A
apart.
relationship, like a girl not being able to control him anymore, that girl
Yeah.
being Cleopatra. Like it's mournful, it's triumphant, it's vengeful. So many different
It's like
things.
self-reflective.
Self-reflective.
Yeah, like it paints a very full portrait of what like a relationship breaking up can look like.
This album is
Yeah.
a lot deeper than I initially thought on the surface. Like now that we're actually talking about it.
I thought this was about the play about Cleopatra.
Well, it was originally based off the Shakespeare.
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know.
Or
the name
something
of it.
Wait.
about it.
Is there
Was there-
Shakespeare Cleopatra?
There was a
Fire
Mark
Knowledge.
Antony play,
Yeah,
right?
Mark,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
yeah.
well.
And then they knew each other. Yeah,
They were friends.
Yeah.
they were
So
pals.
pretty much I'm right.
Pen pals. This sounds like It's got a really fall sounding thing too, because it's super mellow. It almost feels like crispy, like you're drinking a cider or something like that. You've got the cool strum pattern that sounds really mellow. How do you guys feel about the harmonica? This has been the first time have they used the harmonica since the Blue album? I'm trying to think.
None comes to mind.
immediately to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really look into it at all, but how do you feel about that harmonica in there? Do you think?
I didn't really notice it.
Yeah, because it blends in. Sometimes harmonica can be too obnoxious.
Like in the garage.
Yeah. Well, see, that's
It's meant to be super obnoxious.
Well, the strum pattern.
Yeah,
You don't.
Jazz was miming a guitar.
Just kind of looked like I was beating my dick.
looking off in the middle distance.
Yeah,
you like the strum pattern?
usually I don't comment on the strum pattern for songs, but I like it a lot. I think it does well. The drums sound on point on this.
drum
I think.
pattern?
Yeah.
great. I'm going to say
It's
it.
strong.
I think, in my opinion, the whole 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30,
Yeah.
that is the most badass moment in like all of Weezer history.
Oh.
In the entire
Oh.
discography, I can't think of
Huge
any
leap.
other point. Like he sounds so literally cold there.
See,
Like
I thought the most badass moment in Weezer's discography was in the mall when they talk about first we'll smoke and then we smoke.
tired of sex is very badass. But
Yeah, especially
I
that
think,
It's also
solo.
vulnerable.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
also and that whole just that section. I don't think they've ever been as like just out and out like badass cool.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that part at first I didn't know what to think about it when it first came out. I'm like, oh, this sounds like some children's educational song, how to count by fives. But like it really goes well with how quickly time passes and like kind of even references Cleopatra who died at 39, right? I want to say I could be wrong.
I believe you. I'm looking it up.
And we've got the fact checker Chris here.
Cleopatra, 21 years. Oh wait, no, that's her reign.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah, just
like,
keep talking, Chris.
The
is
5, 10,
Yeah,
15,
39.
25.
Okay.
Like that part, yeah, I had the same experience where it's like
Yeah.
at first I was like, this is so dumb. But once you have that mindset of like, oh, he's talking about getting older
Yeah.
in increments of 5, and then that paired with his vocal delivery,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
frick, man.
Frickin'
frick.
heck. This is a Christian podcast,
holy
by the way.
smokes.
Did you guys notice there's one kind of guitar lick that they do that kind of sounds like it might be trying to be like Egyptian? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's the same one that the Strokes do in
We're in Egypt. Their classic song.
Welcome to Egypt.
Their
No,
classic
no, no,
song,
no, no,
Cairo
no, no.
Airport. Their
Oh,
classic
jeez.
song, Taxi Ride to the Pyramids.
I totally
Classic
can't.
Egyptian police. No, Egyptian city. Memphis City
While Chaz is
cops.
talking, I'm just
Fuck
gonna
it.
flip through the songs.
I ruined my joke.
Egyptian city cops.
Cairo City
Police
Cops.
of Egypt. Like Prince of Egypt. Great animated film, by the way.
Insane cast. Do you guys know?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that
Actually,
cast is
pull this up. I'm
bonkers.
interested.
Dude, the cast
Okay.
is fucked on this one.
Okay,
God,
let's just run this
they
really
had
quick.
God to
Counted
play
them. I
himself
forget.
as the burning bush.
And
There are
we've
so
got to
many
move on.
people.
Okay. As Moses and as the uncredited voice of God, Val Kilmer. As Ramesses, Ray Fiennes. As Zipporah, Michelle Pfeiffer. As Miriam,
Face's wife.
Sandra Bullock. As Aaron, Jeff Goldblum.
Like,
As Jethro, Danny Glover. As Seti, Patrick Stewart.
Donald Glover was in that
As
movie?
Shut up,
Danny
asshole.
Glover. As Tuya, Helen Mirren. As the two priests, Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Worked so well.
Damn.
What'd
Make
you
sure you
guys,
turn me down during this sequence.
what'd you guys think of the? I know we haven't really been talking about. We didn't talk about it for Back to the Shack, or what?
I'm
the?
finding the part. Keep
You're
talking.
playing shit on your phone.
Keep talking. I'm finding
What were
the
you
part.
saying?
Are you gonna cut your mic?
Yeah, he'll cut
In
his mic.
post?
No,
fix
just
it.
keep talking. It's fine.
Okay. No, the single artwork to this. I know we didn't talk about Da Vinci, which I really like. It's just
Oh, that's a very
the
funny-
Mona Lisa, and then she's got the
throwing it
Weezer.
W.
W. Yeah.
But so the single to both Back to the Shack and this song are both pretty much the album art to this album, minus the beast and then the words, and they pretty much just print the title on it, which I didn't think worked too well for Back to the Shack. But for Cleopatra, I really like it. It looks so clean. And then it says Cleopatra, and then it's got the hieroglyphics underneath it.
Okay, I found the Strokes part.
Oh, good.
That sounds like
Thank
it's
God.
on Vision of Division.
Vision
off
of Da Vinci.
Their best album, First Impressions of Earth.
Okay, maybe it was worth the
Okay,
wait and
that
the
was
coffee
worth it.
strike.
Go.
The copy strike.
I've been watching too much PewDiePie lately.
Some of our videos have been flagged, but that just means we can't make money off of them.
Which is fine. We're not doing this to try and earn like 8 cents.
I was in this for the profit.
I'm just in this to maybe get to meet a
in it for
current
the girls.
or
What
former.
would be the number one Weezer pull if you could have a Weezer pull on the podcast?
What do you mean?
Like,
You could pull someone from Weezer to be on the podcast.
Carl.
It'd be Rivers.
I mean,
No,
aside
because we criticize Rivers
Yeah,
too much.
we-
Like Rivers doesn't need that shit.
Like, do you really want to hang out with Rivers, like, talking podcast?
Oh, him knowing
This-
we said all the shit we said about him?
I want
Yeah.
This-
Carl like annotations
Oh,
on
I
our
guess,
podcast.
yeah.
you want to. This might be a controversial opinion, but
Carl
for a-
Koch commentary. He listens to every episode, just talks over it.
like on the video capture device
I
DVD,
was
which
thinking
you
of
guys should
the,
get. Yo,
you
are we
talking
gonna do a
YouTube
video capture device
Hell
DVD
yeah.
episode?
Where Scott and Scott talk over it, listening to themselves
Well,
talk. Yeah.
no, I think Scott might be the most interesting person to have on. I don't know why. Scott just seems like a cool guy too. I feel like he'd be easy
yeah,
to talk
chill
to.
guy. Chill podcast.
You'd be like criticizing stuff, and I feel like Scott would be like, yeah, you know what? I kind of thought that too. Or maybe I'm just putting words into Scott's mouth here.
I was reading interviews today, and he had some great quotes where he was like,
I really
we were
like the
working on
Scott
Gratitude,
interview.
and I was like, really? Rivers? We're doing this? And he's like, but I respect the... It's like a weird... It's like, we're really doing, like, these songs are not good. And it's like, but I respect his vision and his, like, desire for what he wants Weezer to be. And I kind of, like, let him run Weezer, and I just go along. And, like, the third thing is, like, so I was just kind of like, fuck you, I'm going to play this song how I want. So it's like, we're recording that Can't Stop Partying, and it's like, fuck you, I'm going to play the bass my own way. It's like, you're still making Can't Stop
I
Partying.
feel like Scott would be the most like reasonable member of Weezer.
Brian.
Brian is too easygoing to be reasonable, I feel like.
Well, don't forget about the time he stole that guy's camera.
What?
We were talking about that, right?
I don't know.
That picture on Flickr, where it's like asshole at a music festival.
Oh yeah. No, he
There's
didn't
some-
steal his
There's
camera.
I know, but there's a picture of Brian. Someone took of Brian Bell on like Flickr. That's called "Portrait of an Asshole."
Yeah.
And then it's like, because it's like, yeah, like I was at a music festival and I took a picture of this guy and he got really
he looked
pissed.
like a huge asshole.
Yeah,
like,
and like he got
just
really pissed and like went
music
after me.
festival. Brian is just standing there in
Yeah.
a suit,
And then it's like-
looking like an asshole.
Yeah, it's like edit. Turns out this is Brian Bell from Weezer.
And then it was
And
funny.
they tell the
'cause-
whole story about like how
Yeah.
like Brian like accosted him and like wanted him to delete the picture and stuff.
I don't.
That's cool.
Fuck, I'm
Sounds
worried.
believable.
Brian seems like he has a lot going on and just sits on.
No, I thought it was funny though, because the guy's just like probably should have known this, seeing as
Yeah, I
I shot like I was the one like taking photos of them that night. Anyways, let's move on. Are we still talking about Cleopatra?
I think we're all done with Cleopatra. I think we are ready to move on to number 5 on our list. The British are coming.
Okay.
Let me take that accent again. The British
Oh.
are coming. Cool.
Is that your impression?
Oh, bleep that out. She'll know who she is.
Yeah.
Yo, bleep that out and she will know who she is because she listens to this podcast. Widely liked track. It's got the intro with the literati as we
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, for me, this is a song that almost had the opposite effect of Da Vinci and Lonely Girl, where I really liked it when it first came out, and then it's kind of fallen into more an album track. Even though, like I've said, like I think almost every song on this album is like incredible. I
Oh, yeah.
still think this is a great song. I had it ranked higher than a number of songs, but
This song is weird in that it basically has like 4 separate intros that just kind of bleed together. There's like the drum roll with the guy going like level 1 of the literati, and then there's like that acoustic guitar part that's a little like purposely sloppy.
Yeah,
And then
it
the
kind
piano
of.
comes
I
in.
feel like it's a little
and
bit.
then it moves into the part where it actually starts singing.
That it reminds me a decent amount of the intro to Pink Triangle, in some ways. Kind of just like. Okay,
Controversial take.
wouldn't be the first time on the podcast I had an objectively bad opinion.
Yeah, the two things that really interest me about this song is like it's really weird sounding. Like I was really struggling to find a Weezer song or even like a song in general almost to compare it to. Like it's got the operatic side of things.
Oh, for sure.
Like the intro or
Especially-
the song in general?
the song.
especially the chorus, because it starts off like low, like dun 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 dun. Like it really has a huge jump, like
Yeah.
spatially, which I think at this point, like for this one, they kind of realize that they've done a lot of like the basic sounding choruses they can do, and then they're kind of doing one where it ends up being catchy, but you would never think of it as like being catchy. Especially, I get that a lot with. Actually, I was gonna say "Why Bother," which is the complete opposite. It's like the vocal melody is like so close together, like when it comes to the note they're singing.
This song and a few others really sound to me like they could be numbers in a musical.
Yeah,
100%.
totally.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
Very operatic.
Because I mean,
Punk
like,
ass redcoats
yeah,
trying to
what-
run the show. I like a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But like, what is the deal with this song? From
What
what,
is it about?
what I understand, it's like literally just a straight.
What is he talking about?
It's just a
Historical
straight
recounting.
historical recounting. Where it's like Cleopatra. It's
Yeah, Cleopatra
It's like-
isn't really about
It's
Cleopatra.
metaphorical.
Yeah.
This song is arguably just about Paul Revere.
yeah,
The interview where they're in the studio and he's like, I'm deciding how literal to make this.
Yeah.
And then he
Yes.
goes like, oh, I was listening to like some They Might Be Giants songs.
Yeah.
Where it was like,
Istanbul,
Oh.
not Constantinople.
yeah, he was like, oh, like maybe I might take their cue and just do a straight up historical
Yeah.
recounting. And for what it is, I dig it.
What would we call our They Might Be Giants podcast? Podcast, not Constantinople.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe it
Great
ties...
job shutting me down.
I affirmed you.
But to get me to shut up.
This could be also like maybe it ties into the sort of time travel thing that they're talking. like,
Rivers
'cause-
is
'cause
looking
this
out
starts-
over the scope of human history.
Well,
Yeah.
this starts with talking about the literal. Like it's the
the
most.
one thing that could make this a concept.
Yeah, it's the most directly referential to that sort of whole Joel LaFoley, Future Scope, all that stuff. Like, it seems the most directly referential. So maybe it's like sort of talking about like, I don't know. It kind of loses steam after that.
Yeah.
But like what could it be about if it was
just like a general,
metaphorical?
like everything will
just
be
like
all right.
anti-establishment.
Well, and like this is the destiny of all mankind. We'll shake off these chains and shackles that bind. Just like everything will be okay. Like, look, those guys.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, maybe it's like, yeah, like the British were coming and it was like, oh shit, but then it worked out okay.
I also just like, I thought,
But did it?
Oh.
Oh, hot take.
tune into Gavin's podcast.
I've got
Is
a
America
lot.
This is America.
This is America. This
I-
was a British colony.
I love the way he says punk ass redcoats trying to run the show.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what that's a good approximation of the relationship between the British
I mean,
Empire.
yeah,
and the
honestly,
colony.
they
They were
trying to
punk
run
ass
the show.
redcoats trying to run the
Taxation
show.
without representation.
Telling
It's
people what
tyranny.
to do and where to go.
That's the definition of running the show, if you ask me. Yeah, I mean, this is a good song, very interesting song, very operatic, very
There's never been.
musical-ish.
They've never done a song like that before, and they haven't since.
I like how they kind of kept the opera theme, because like one of the projects that they were kind of working on around the time of this that they kind of scrapped before this was like a sea opera they were doing. So yeah,
Yo, Weezer does an album of pirate shanties.
Ooh, I would listen to that.
there's that one Brian Bell album, the relationship one, where it's a pirate ship or maybe just a regular ship on the front of it. It's hard to tell who's on the ship from a picture.
Folks, it's hard to tell what ships are which.
But yeah, speaking of, what were we speaking of? The operaticness of it.
Yeah.
There is one part of this album that one reviewer, as I read in the Wikipedia article, compared it to Greatest Man That Ever Lived, and 2, they compared it to Songs from the Black Hole, an unfinished rock opera that Weezer was working on. And that part of the album is our next topic of discussion.
And that reviewer was Lin-Manuel Miranda,
Yeah, and
the writer of Hamilton.
co-written by Paul Revere. But the part of the album that we're talking about, I keep saying part when I want to say song because it's the Future Scope trilogy. The climax and coda to this album. It is a 3-track suite, you could say. Mm-hmm. You've got part 1, The Wasteland, that's an instrumental. And then you have Anonymous. And then you have Return to Ithaca, which is also an instrumental. So we had a lot of discussion about how this was going to work, about how we were going to rank this, if we were going to rank this, whether we would leave them out entirely and talk about it at the end,
start or the end, or
whether we would rank them individually.
Yeah, really enthralling discussion that happened before the podcast started about when we were gonna talk about things in the podcast.
This episode is less about everything will be all right in the end and more about us getting roasted by a married man.
Oh, having a wife must be so fun. All of that to say that points to how weird this is. Like, Weezer, like, we just talked about British Are Coming, which is something they've never done anything like this before. And then you have this, a 3-part song.
Which is 66% wordless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Math checks out. Well, if you're doing it by
time, it's more like 59%. Okay, so what do we think about this? I know it's hard. We'll break it down. Let's start with The Wasteland. I think this is by far the weakest part.
My only note is
suite.
Brackets, extended solo brackets.
I think that if we were ranking these individually, this would easily be at the bottom.
Yeah.
I had this one ranked above Anonymous because when we first started doing this, I had them ranked individually.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like Anonymous.
Speak on that.
I think this is it's kind of an interesting song because
It is interesting.
whereas like a song like Return to Ithaca is that could act as a standalone song. This one doesn't work as well as a standalone song, right? But it feels a lot shorter than Return to Ithaca, even though it being like maybe a matter of seconds shorter. It has a lot of like different feelings throughout it, I think. There's like parts that are darker, parts that are a lot more melodic, whereas a song like Return to Ithaca, it feels like very...
One triumphant.
Yeah, one triumphant, like all the same feeling. This kind of goes through a lot of different stuff. And kind of that part near the end where it's like almost like down, 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 like very like on the beat. That part gets me every time. I think it's a great way to open the trilogy and then lead into Anonymous, how it just kind of smoothly transitions into it.
There's those transitions again.
Yeah.
This whole Future Scope trilogy thing, listening to it, like we all sit together and listen to all the albums before we record these episodes, and listening to it that time, kind of the one thought I had was they somehow like have their cake and eat it too, in terms of it doesn't sound anything like Only in Dreams, but it is good in a lot of the same ways Only in Dreams is good, in that you just like get a lot of feelings out by them all jamming out. And there's like some softer emotional parts, and there are just parts where they're just like shredding.
Yeah.
In ways that they usually don't get to in a pop song.
Return to Ithaca is definitely like an Only in Dreams.
Yeah.
It's like, you were the first person who talked to me about this, Chaz, how like it, like if you listen to Only in Dreams and then Return to Ithaca, they flow naturally into each other. Have you talked about this with me before?
I think I did.
I can't imagine anyone else was talking to me about Return to Ithaca. But yeah, if you listen to them back to back, like they're like in the same key, like they sound very similar, like they flow into each other very naturally. Like definitely
I'm starting to think my memory is just shot now. Jeez.
But yeah, this was like many years ago.
Okay, well then.
If you put Solo by
Star
Frank
Wars story?
Ocean back to back with Pink Toes, there's like bird sounds and they go into each other perfectly, even though they were made years apart by different people.
Cool.
That is cool.
I can play it for you guys after.
Please do.
Yeah.
The bulk of our discussion should surround Anonymous. And it's really
got
like
the
Anonymous is a
vocals.
song,
Yeah.
and then it's sort of
With
surrounded
words,
by these
yeah.
two instrumental elements. So what do you guys think of Anonymous? I think it's a very good song.
I think it's a good song. I had it ranked like individually as one of the lowest, even though I still think it's like a really good song.
Yeah, I think it rips. Like it rips
Yeah.
for sure. It's like a sun is going down, like outdoor stage. Like everyone's on stage is just sweating at the end of a
Yeah.
show, and you're ripping
Crowd's
it.
a little high.
Yeah. I think it's a good song.
I think the lyrics are really fascinating. We kind of
Yeah.
had like a mini discussion before we started recording about.
We did not save it for the pod.
I think we did save it for the pod because we're doing it now.
Okay.
Just about what this could mean. Just like the basic, the whole overarching. There aren't that many words to the song. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's a
a lot
very
of repeating
simple
parts.
one.
so the basic idea of it is, I don't know the words to say, so I call you Anonymous. I don't even know your name. Is the sort of overarching aspect of it. And so the one thing to note is that this is categorized as part of the Patriarchia set of songs. So in other words, it's about relationships with father or father figures. So
I can't believe the hacker group originating from 4chan is a father figure to Rivers
epic.
Cuomo. That's really weird that he would feel that way.
Sure.
That was a Chaz level comment.
Do you guys find this song lyrically rich as I do?
I dig it. I think the lyrics gain meaning through repetition on this song.
Yeah.
And the way it kind of breaks down right at the end, and he's going, anonymous. I can't even do it.
I mean, like, and there's so many different
Monogamous,
ways to look at it, like in terms of
no.
father figures or role models, right? Because the whole thing about like, it could definitely have like reference to like his estranged father, like at birth, like I don't really know anything about you, so I
Yeah.
just like. Or even talking about like somewhat more literally, like all these like famous quotes that everyone knows, but no one knows who said them. So they're all like signed like anonymous in a way like that. Or almost. No, I think that was the end of what I had to say.
My take was like this Anonymous is maybe like also his relationship with his fans, in that like he doesn't know them, but he has a lot of weird interaction with his fans, like constantly. But
Yeah, he
must be
cares about the
yeah.
fans.
super surface level in that. Well, I don't know. I haven't interacted with him like
It's
Chaz
surprising because
has.
you're a fan.
But like I don't know. It's like maybe he's creating this persona of all of mankind that he doesn't really know as Anonymous, and he's connecting with that, and that sort of can be a parental patriarchal figure.
Or
so he's sitting in his room being like, all of humanity are fans of Weezer.
Like, I think what Gavin's trying to say, which I totally
No,
get,
yeah, I
is
know.
that clearly, I mean, you look at this album is like the biggest evidence of it. Like, Weezer and Rivers specifically cares so much about what people think
yeah.
about
Yeah.
Weezer. Like, he literally made an entire album about what people think about Weezer.
Yeah.
And kind of 2014, I'd say this process that started somewhere around Red, going on in the background, is that like the internet took over everyone's lives.
Yeah.
And the fact that like most of your interactions with most people at this point are online, and a bunch of them are completely anonymous, and a bunch of people we all interact with, we have no
Yeah.
idea who they are. What
That
they're
could
like.
actually be a reference to like 4chan.
And yeah, and like
I don't know if it's
like the
that.
music
But-
forums. I know like a lot of artists go to like the 4chan music forums and get like
Not necessarily 4chan specifically,
Yeah,
even,
but
but
No,
the
yeah.
kind of
idea
thing,
of a
like-
forum where like
Yeah.
anyone can say anything.
yeah,
and no
it's
one
someone you have no idea who they are.
It's all
talking about.
aliases
Although
and pictures you picked.
Although then again, if it's like, do you think he's really talking about that? If this is filed under like the patriarchal one or whatever?
Well, maybe not, but that just
I guess
talking about
these
this.
aren't clean lines.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. As we said, the thematics are a little bit tenuous at times. What really makes me think that sort of subscribe to Gavin's idea is this: the sort of bridge part. I look at my love, look at my friends, look in the eyes of my enemy. It's all just a gift that I'm going to give to you.
Right.
And I was having trouble interpreting that, but now, sort of looking at it through that lens, I'm seeing it as like he can't even live his life because he perceives it as because he's an artist, and so everything in his life is something that will
Like out
later
for grabs
fuel his art. Exactly.
to the fans.
So it's like he doesn't even have ownership over himself or like his love or any part of his life, because like
It's a gift that he's gonna give to you.
yeah,
Which is weird, especially knowing about me,
Yeah.
knowing about what Rivers posts to social media. He posts a lot of weird stuff. Like he'll go a couple weeks and then post something that's like just a picture of him like scrolling through his computer at
Yeah.
a very awkward angle, or like I think there was one like he posts a lot of like the captions on pictures, especially on Instagram. It's like not very clear if he's reposting something that someone sent to him,
Yeah.
or one of his own thoughts, and it was like.
that again, we're going back to their historical
Shack.
arc as a band. We're going back to the Shack, and we're going back to Pinkerton, because the whole thing about Pinkerton and about the backlash and everything that followed Pinkerton, everything about Weezer, like, I mean, we talk all the time about post Pinkerton Weezer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that he never got the name of the girl who wrote him that letter.
That too. But
Oh.
you can go back to that and say this is where he was the most vulnerable. He made himself the most emotionally available, where his lyrics were the most direct and honest references to his own life. I mean, you think of like El Scorcho, which is basically like
He's literally telling a
It's
specific
like a
story.
week in the life of Rivers.
exactly, and
So, same with falling
then
for you.
and
too,
then
at that
the
point.
response was, "Ooh, no, do not do this."
I still think my favorite one, and I probably mentioned it during the Pinkerton podcast, but like this review thing of it, or a comment about it, where they're talking about the album and how like people didn't really like it at first, and just the comment like, who wants to know about like the sex life of the guy who sang Buddy Holly?
Holy cow!
Holy cow!
At the same time-
something Wong.
At the same time, I think lyrics. At the same time, I think a lot of lyrics can be compelling and attractive and draw the ear without you necessarily needing to have like a coherent picture of what they're talking
That's
about
very
behind
true.
it. And I think this could be one of those songs where anonymous is a cool word. Again, he fits it into the song in a way that is not obvious to like the ear. You wouldn't like. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of other singers could fit the word anonymous just like syllabically.
Yeah, I mean, like-
into a song the way he does.
Yeah.
Even
and
the concept of anonymity, like that is obviously like a very opaque
Yeah.
idea, and so that sort of like fits in with what you're saying, like that there is that certain level of like impenetrability to it.
And like I find it very compelling and cool and intriguing without, there's a lot of different interpretations that could be true. And I
right.
think-
Well, it's that beautiful mix in a lyric where it's both specific, like could be very specific to Rivers, could be very specific to any certain listener, but it's also super vague. Like it doesn't necessarily convey a certain meaning.
It's specific, but it's not obvious.
and
Yeah.
it means whatever it means to him. That's between him and God. But
Well,
like,
yeah, that goes into what your philosophy is about. How do you interpret a song? Whether you need to know more than what is presented to you,
exactly.
or if you can just interpret the song on the face of the song.
I was
Death of
reading
the
a
author.
great article about John Cage's 433, which is where he was arguing that John Cage was saying his literal like intent with the premiere of it was not like it's like it's portrayed as some sort of prank now.
An epic troll.
Yeah.
Like you walk out like, oh wait, oh what, huh?
He
But
trolled me.
He's saying the point was that the music wasn't the sound of the instruments being
Right.
played. It was the
sound
sounds
of the-
of like the rustling. It draws your attention. And he's like, oh, but my point
Yeah.
got completely forgotten. And
And
it was like,
confusion and all that stuff.
John Cage, you should have been a bit more clear about. There are ways you could have made. your
Just in
meaning
case people
more
don't
clear.
know what the song is, 433 is a piece by John Cage, which is literally 4 minutes and 33 seconds of not silence, but no instruments playing. I think the point of the song would be the sound, or like the music would be like
the noise of the room.
the noise of the room. Yeah.
Anyway, I would just want to say,
Well,
sorry.
let's return to this song first.
anonymous. Great co-comp trolling.
That was the rare time when Chaz's powers were used for good.
Sometimes Chaz will just take the wheel on the podcast, and they're great.
Drive us
moments.
off the fucking bridge.
Anyway, in Anonymous, the song for Rivers, it means whatever it means for him. But I personally, I've had several meaningful connections with people on the internet where I have no idea what their names are or really anything personal about them.
Chris and Chaz show, for one.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you. But
And the song reminds me of that, even though it could mean whatever in Rivers is said. The
Yeah.
end.
actually, yeah.
The end, the next song on the list is whatever it is.
Well, we pretty much talked about that song as what the song means and the lyrics and all that stuff, but we didn't really talk about the song, which is something we haven't done so much on this album. Like, we've been talking about lyrics and the meanings of songs so much more than like, how does the song sound?
Yeah, well,
which is definitely like a plus to this album. Not that this it doesn't. I'm not saying that, like, the songs aren't good. It's that Rivers has finally like put in the sweet life-giving effort that
That's never not gonna be funny.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, you go.
yeah, but like, they finally have like lyrics where you can really dissect them and get in there and be like, oh, this could have multiple meanings. Is there like symbolism? And then even on a song we'll talk about soon, like talk about how like maybe the music itself almost mimics like the progressions of like the stages of what this song is talking about. But
No,
the haze, how do you guys feel about them? Because I
that's
know
a big moment.
online it seems like a lot of people are really torn over this, where half of them being like, no, fuck, that ruined the song, and other people being like, I loved them.
I like the haze.
I really like the haze.
They're okay.
It's super Green Day for me, which
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's a good way of putting it.
That's a good way to feel about Green Day.
Yeah, you really are.
But yeah, just to go back to what just to go back to what you said for a second, Chaz. Like, I know exactly what you like. I think that the fact that the lyrics are worth talking about, other than this is shit, is really like a good. Like, I was
It's
like
refreshing.
Yeah, I was listening to the album and I was like, oh man, like he's using metaphors, like hearing like the British Are Coming, where it's like, this is not subject matter that he would ever talk about
Yeah.
on any preceding albums, like maybe ever, probably. But, like, just the fact that, like, yeah, just that the meaning isn't always super, super obvious to the point of being annoying read in the mall, which
Yeah.
is like,
That's
yeah,
actually the exact one I was thinking
like,
of
it's
too.
about being in the mall. Let's talk though about Return to Ithaca, the outro of the album, the coda, if you will. Very interesting constructed song. It's basically it's very similar to the last 2 minutes of Only in Dreams.
It's just a big old triumphant shred session.
I read something that it's 5 guitar solos simultaneously.
5 guitars layered, which I think is very impressive, like, in and of itself. If you think about like writing a song, like any song I've written where I tried to do like a bunch of guitars.
Think
or
about
something,
all of the
it's
songs
like,
Chaz has written.
Yeah, I'm thinking about them right
Listener
now.
out there.
No, like, I feel like even getting almost like 3 instruments is almost like pushing it, right?
That's a lot of instruments.
Or not instruments. Three layered guitars is almost like pushing it. And even with that, like, you've usually got like a rhythm, or like maybe even 2 rhythm guitars and a solo guitar over it. But this is 5 like solo guitars, and
they all sound
and
great
yeah,
together,
they're all like required. Like, they all make this song. It's not like they're just throwing in something to almost fill it out. Like, it sound, you can hear each individual part. If you look at, like, say the sheet music or the tabs for this song, any one of these parts is like sounds cool just to play on its own.
Yeah, they're all fully fleshed out individually, and
It's
that's
like an orchestra of guitars.
Yeah, like it. I mean, I love to use the word epic, but in a genuine sense,
Yeah.
this is actually an epic. I mean, this whole album. I mean, we're gonna talk about our top 3 songs. I would say all fall under what we've been talking about as sort of a very operatic sound, and I think that is where this album really succeeds. Is like, while thematically it almost seems like quieter, like it's more like meditating on these very like kind of like dark concepts, like the idea of aging, the idea of death, like of like losing love, and yet it does it in such a way that it just feels like epic. And then this is like this like the crescendo of the whole album, which is just like really cool.
I really like the way it just flows in from Anonymous, and even like the first note, it's not just like a clean da. It's like it almost feels like it's like
It feels like they've been strumming and then you just jump in.
Like wow, no, 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 instead of just down. I don't know how to describe it, but it sounds.
It's full of
Cool.
organic energy. Like,
Yeah.
And it sounds like it was like, I mean, a lot of songs sound like this, like in the, a lot of songs sound like this on the album where like you can tell that like when they were like, I can picture them like recording it or like listening to it back and just looking at each other and being like, like
Actually,
really feeling themselves.
that one part in the song where it's like wow now, like that other guitar kind of does that reminds me of another song that's got a number of guitar parts layered in a part, which is a song written by Rick Ocasek when he was with the Cars.
Ooh.
Called Touch and Go. The solo, or not the solo, well, first of all, the solo is insane. Elliot Easton is an incredible guitar.
R.I.P. Right?
Nope,
All right,
he's
possible.
still with
Oh,
us.
Sorry. Okay.
No, it's
Elliott Smith.
What's
Awaken in peace.
yeah, but
I love that childish game.
no, the chorus to that song, that's a song that reminds me so much of Weezer, even though it doesn't really sound like them. And I just think, I'm like, oh right, that's Rick Ocasek, the guy who produced 3 of their albums. But the chorus to it, it's got a couple different guitars played over it. Like the first time they go through the chorus, it's just like one guitar playing the thing, and then they add the second guitar, and then they add like the third guitar. I think it sounds really cool. It reminds me a lot of this. I think it's interesting that Rick Ocasek wrote that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of like harder rock conventions in this, like the kind of the way the harmonies work, but just like in terms of guitar tone, like we haven't talked about
Yeah,
guitar
oh my
tone
gosh.
that much since Maladroit, but these guitars, they're like liquid and they're
Yeah.
so bright and like
And
they're like it's like molten
they've got-
magma just like pouring right in your ear.
It's not like they just use one guitar tone through the whole thing. There's so many incredible like different guitar tones
Yeah.
on this album. You've got ones that sound like really like they like in like hit. They're like almost like they just like are feel like powerful, and you've got like some more like smooth ones that just like flow
There's
with a lot of
smooth, there's
soul.
bright, there's
and then,
chunky, there's boxy, there's-
the boxy is what I'm thinking about, and then you've got like the acoustic on some of the stuff as well. Like they're really using their guitars to their full potentials on this album.
Basically,
guys.
every choice you can make with an instrument, they have like they bring a wide palette of decisions
I can
to
tell
every
Chris is
single
excited to say something.
Well, after you said that, I've got 2 great things to add. I've got two little bits of trivia. Number 1 is you're talking about guitars and guitar tone. Well, I happen to know that Rick Ocasek brought in his guitars that were used on the Blue album. When they were recording Everything Will Be Alright.
Oh, that's cool. He brought in
He brought in the original Blue guitars.
he brought in his Ocasek of guitars.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
brought in his case and it was filled.
Yeah.
And also, it's interesting that you mentioned like making good decisions, because I fully agree with that like they made good
Making
decisions.
good decisions isn't something we normally talk about on a Weezer podcast.
Yeah, exactly. He says that they had a Google Doc with a hyper-specific outline of everything left to do on the album. Each song has a number with a long list of lettered tasks under it. Redo this solo, blend that intro better, and on and on. So I feel like they like, rather than like, I feel like it, or at least it sounds like for certain songs on their last couple of albums, it's just like, let's lay it down and then we're done. Whereas with this, it really feels like they're like being craftsmen about it. Like,
Yeah, they were being real sticklers about
And also
it.
just like a bunch of other Weezer songs, it's like, oh, there are like 2, maybe 3 parts of the song. And I like them all, but it's 2 or 3 parts. And some of these songs, there's
Yeah,
like 6,
it
7,
is
8 parts.
insane how
and
many
I like
parts
them
on
all.
some
And the
of
fact
these,
that they
yeah.
can blend them all together makes me like them all so much more.
There's really not a lot to talk about to return to Ithaca. Like, it's a very good song. Like, I rate it very highly. But I mean, there's just not a lot to talk
Yeah, like,
about.
it is
It's
what it
an
is.
instrumental, so
I
you
can't
just gotta
believe we
listen to
talked
it.
as much as we did about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just like very ambitious, very well executed, like just easily could have fallen flat. You think of like Greatest Man That Ever Lived, which is a sort of attempt to be epic and kind of falls flat
Yeah.
at certain points.
Yeah, for this song though, I ran the first time like when
It
this
takes your breath
album
away.
leaked, and I like the first time I heard this, I was like, obviously my reaction isn't good for a podcast where you can't see my face I'm doing, but I'm doing a face that...
No, I've heard this song 3 times today. I listened to it on my way to work. I listened to it sitting in bed. And I listened to it again in front of the good speakers with everyone before we recorded. And each one of those times, Return to Ithaca just fills my body up with this energy where you're just like, oh,
it's the same as Only in Dreams at the end, where you're like, oh shit.
It's like roller coaster ride.
Yeah, totally. But let's move on. We are in the top 3 at this point. We're getting into some really great songs. And the first one of those is Foolish Father.
I have a correction to make. I think it was for Cleopatra, I said the vocal line rips off Feel Good Inc. That's actually Foolish Father, and I just totally forgot which section that was.
I was confused what you were talking about.
Yeah, when you said that, I kind of just sang part of it in my head, and I was just like, yeah. And then now that you said that, I'm like, I was singing that bit from Foolish Father.
Exactly,
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Walk into his grave. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
That is exactly the same as Windmill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's funny how you said that, and I was literally thinking the Foolish Father line.
Everyone went, yeah.
I mean, I went,
I was wrong, but I'm right.
Great song.
Yeah, let's talk about the song.
Yeah,
now.
if you're gonna rip off a song, Feel Good Inc. Like.
Oh, I thought you were
yeah.
talking about I Was Wrong, the song
Nope, no one's talking
No.
about that. We're talking about Foolish Father. Let's go.
by Social Distortion.
Still not talking about it.
Hey, podcast.
Hey, I'm podcasting here. Foolish Father, it was my number 1 song, I
Really?
think, or it was for a time, and then I changed it. Nope, it's my number 1. Yeah, I think this is an awesome song. I think that
amazing.
there's an
Incredible.
argument to be made that this should be the closer of the album.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's an argument to be made for that. I almost feel like if you did something like Foolish Father, then go into Return to Ithaca.
It's
kind of that sort of thing.
I want to talk about it a little at the end, but there's definitely a case to be made that this album could do with like a bit of resequencing, and it might turn into something a little better. But yeah, like I think this is very much the thesis statement for the album. It blends.
It ends with the coda. Everything will be all right.
I mean, emotionally, like this is the high point of the album. I would say.
Yeah.
Like, bar none.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because to me, again, like we're talking about multiple interpretations for songs.
Of course, yeah.
For me, this can be read kind of 2 main ways. Sort of one is obviously Rivers and his own father.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of idea of your father made some mistakes in the past, but he was just doing.
They're only human.
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. But then that sort of clashes with him saying you are his daughter, sort of referring to a female rather than a male.
and Rivers has daughters.
Which makes me think that it might be sort of him, reflecting on his own father and thinking about what that means for him as a father, partly worrying about his children's future, partly like sort of being like, hey, I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm doing what I can for you. Like there's so many ways to come at this
yeah.
that I feel like is really interesting.
Especially kind of like him growing up and then stepping into the shoes of his father, being like, you know what, like I'm the father, but like I still don't have all the answers. Like I kind of understand, like obviously a much different situation with him and his children compared to him and his father.
Yeah.
But kind of getting perspective from like, it's not easy. I made mistakes. I've made mistakes as a father as well.
Mm-hmm. And also like, yeah, it definitely makes you think.
And
back,
how,
like,
especially like
saying,
how destroyed he feels inside, like thinking about like his shortcomings or failures, and that he hasn't been like the perfect father to his children.
Oh, that verse has to be the darkest verse
It's
Weezer
so
has ever
dark.
done. Think of how destroyed he
his
feels
grave
plot.
walking to his
how
grave
distraught
plot,
he feels, like walking to his grave plot,
knowing that the one he loves hates him with all her heart.
Like holy,
I can't think of a darker verse than that.
yeah.
It's a lot. And it's just so interesting because like you really can like look at it from both sides. Like he, like on one hand, like he's thinking about like, is his dad dead?
No,
I don't think
so.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just wondering because part of it is like it's like Rivers is thinking about how destroyed his dad feels, because like I think this is around the time that, well, I mean, they say he made up with his dad.
Yeah.
I think that definitely harkens back to that idea that he's sort of realizing like, hey, it's not worth it to have this anger.
Yeah, that's another aspect of the song too, like holding on to anger.
Oh, that really punched me in the gut, this latest listen. Specifically with the way this theme of the passage of time and the impermanence of everything is building up. And especially that's preceded by songs like Da Vinci, and then especially Cleopatra. Specifically like, oh, this like lady, whoever she is, he's got this big, important relationship with her. And it just kind of winds down as she grows older. And then cutting to this and him going, the chorus is him going, specifically, forgive your foolish father, and generally kind of like look, like human history, it's all these lives, we're all gonna die. It's like,
Why?
you have your kids and then you die, and then they have kids and then they die, and that's all humanity is from a certain view. Like, just
It's
don't
just people
hold.
and their kids and their kids. And
with that in mind, just like, why would you ever hold on to anything such negativity like that, knowing that he held on to that negativity to his father? He's like, look, like,
For
I've
decades.
done this, and like, don't have bad blood with your family, because in the end it's just going to tear you up. And like, that kind of totaled me.
Yeah.
Gavin, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we haven't heard much from you.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. The first couple of times that I listened through this album, I didn't make it all the way through. I hit this song and hit like the first bit, like I hit the wasteland. I was like, this probably isn't that important. So I totally agree with the perspective of it potentially being an album closer. And yeah, that last chorus hits so hard after having had all the like the lyrical content that we've been talking about. Yeah, I don't know. I had why not end here? Another classic 10-song Weezer album.
Yeah.
When the group vocals come in on the beginning of lines in the second chorus, musically it bursts and blooms into a cacophony that is just so uncontainable with those like repeating final lines. Everything will be all right in the end.
There's like so much to say about this song too. Even like if you're talking from a musical standpoint as well, like it has so many parts to it. It's got kind of that weird intro bit that feels dark, and then it's got the verse, it's got the choruses, it's got a bridge, it's got a solo, it's got like a different like bridge / outro, like the everything will be all right in the end bit, and then it's got just everything else that you love, or that I always talk about Weezer. It's got the chorus where they switch it up by adding, how they switch it up, they add the Brian backing vocal.
Oh, great!
Like not even backing. Like at a certain point, Brian is the
just
front,
singing.
and then Rivers comes in behind him. Like it's almost
they're
like
overlapping.
they're
in canon.
Yeah, exactly.
I think something else about this song where almost the music bridges with the lyrics and stuff are just sort of how the song starts out. It's got that like really dark bit in the intro, like da da, and then it kind of goes into the like it's sort of like a hard, like almost feeling like rebellious, like chaotic sort of sound, talking about like the verse, and then progressing to the chorus where it's super poppy and happy. And I feel like that almost like mimics how a relationship could go. Like it starts dark and then you get angry and then you just let it all go, you forgive them, just say fuck everything, and then it like
it brings you peace.
Like peace of mind, and everything will be all right in the end. Like,
and the guitars are doing that island in the sun type thing, like picking through the chords.
Just one fun bit of trivia, and I think we can move on, but the sort of choir sound at the end was Rivers tweeted basically being like, who wants to be on the album? so it's a combination of like fans, people at the studio, like people working at the studio, whoever, just like anyone he could find to create that choir, which like sounds really cool.
I would say like I can't really think, not just in the Weezer discography, but like ever, a better use of like a background choir.
Yeah, especially since like it's thematically, you're talking about like unity and like
everyone very, go make up with your family.
Yeah, and like it's about him and his father, but it's also like a very like humanistic, like universal feeling, and like oof, like, and again, like we've talked about it, like that's what's like great about Weezer is that they can talk about specifics, and they can talk about the like Rivers can talk about his personal life, but then he can also talk about things in like a universal sense.
And it all ties together and complements each other.
Yeah. Let's move on. We're in the top
No more
2
foolish daddies.
Oh, they should rename the track to Foolish Daddies. We're at the top 2. We're in a great spot.
Very curious what the order of these two songs is going to be.
The number 2 song is a great song. It's a song we referenced a little earlier. I guess we referenced both these songs earlier, but it's a little song by the name of I've Had It. Up to Here. Such a good song.
Should have been the lead single, in my opinion.
Yes,
I think so,
totally
too.
agree. I think well, like, I mean, this is like Back to the Shack done right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not the lyrics are way less obvious. Like, it's not literally talking about being a rock band. It's talking about being an artist.
They're less obvious, but he's more clear
Yeah.
Yeah.
in like his emotional. Like he's clearly frustrated about this.
Yeah.
This
and
is what it sounds like when someone is frustrated about something.
When they've
for
had it
15
up to
years.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the fact that he fits the line, don't want my ideas polluted by mediocrity, in when it doesn't feel like weird or wordy or anything.
Yeah.
He's got
The whole-
great flow.
The whole
does.
first
Incredible.
verse is like reading it is crazy. Like, he uses the word homogenized. He talks about mommy feeding him with a spoon.
Yeah.
A great line, as much edge as a balloon.
Yeah.
And he fits that in so well.
It works. These are lines
much
that like
as a balloon.
sound.
yeah.
They sound like dumb, but they work so well in this song, and it's all like a concise theme, right?
He's not a happy
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah.
The like
First
the
of all,
line.
I love that line.
The line, "This is important to me," is
Yeah.
so
The
dorky,
way-
but incredible.
But the
way
way
he
he
sings
delivers
it. Yeah.
it and like what it means in the context of the song and like the whole history of Weezer up to that point, and just that being the end of the verse, and then it cuts out for a second, and then
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
going
man.
into the chorus, which I think is the best chorus on this album by far. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
It's such a it's
Yeah.
such a lead single
Oh,
yeah.
feeling song. where It's
So-
like,
And it's so, like-
everything he's doing, it just feels like the focal point of the album.
Exactly.
Yeah, and at the end, like, it has the same operatic elements that we've been talking about, but
Yeah.
it crescendos into that solo. Like, it almost reminds you of like Queen or something. in
Oh,
terms of,
big
exactly.
time. That
How,
beat
like,
switch,
over the top and
the beat switch with the
huge it
piano and the
is.
guitars
Yeah.
are like kind of stomping through the beat. Another
Yeah,
moment that feels exactly like a number from a musical.
Yeah, like in the chorus, like he's hitting high notes. Like when do you
Yeah,
really get
yeah.
that with Weezer? A lot of the times they're just singing like say with like why bother? It's just like da da da.
Middle of his
da
range.
da da. Yeah, like a lot of
Yeah.
these choruses are going to extremes. Like they're going, maybe not so much this one with the low, but like going
the
high.
vocal
like-
range on this whole album. His
is-
whole like vocals are just way more mature
Yeah.
and fit really cohesively with the guitar tones we were talking about earlier. Like they just sound so good together.
It is bonkers that this is 20 years after Blue.
It is.
Exactly.
And he sounds like 4 times as good as singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this song also doesn't really give off that like reminiscent for like nostalgia's sake, like with Back to the Shack, where they kind of talk about like the lightning strap rocking out like it's 94, like that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
like it doesn't feel nostalgic at all.
It-
feels about
yeah.
like it doesn't feel like he's talking about how like, oh, we used to be good and I want to be
Yeah.
good again. It feels like he's talking about like, I want to be good right now.
Yeah,
And like,
this isn't like Back to the Shack is almost more to appease fans, and this
Yeah.
one is like I want to be happy with myself, but also like
Don't want to be a Happy Meal.
he's not a happy meal.
he's not. Maybe he
to the
wants
best
to
of my understanding. Yeah, I'm not. The
A
original
Rivers
lyric-
Cuomo Happy Meal would be
The
great.
original lyric was, "I'm not a happy meal, but I want to be." But yeah, like
This is important to me to get my McDonald's partnership.
I thought we said no derailing.
don't want to find myself homogenized, unlike the milk that comes with my Happy Meal.
The milk that comes with my Happy.
Yeah, like a little carton. It's got Ronald on it.
Old 250 mil.
Yeah.
Is he talking about the Pinkerton phase Or is
Yeah.
he talking about the albums that
That
came
was
later?
my big
Because it's a
question.
big difference between.
But it works
Yeah.
so well for
It works
either
well
of them.
either way.
This
And
is like
I'm still
you can
curious.
interpret so many of these songs so many different ways, which I absolutely love. And this doesn't fall short of that. You could interpret this of talking about the slump and like the Red album,
Yeah.
Ratitude, or you can interpret it with like just fans shutting him down after Pinkerton.
Yeah, and something I forgot to mention on Foolish Father that I meant to is like you could also see it as like him like basically like talking to his child in reference to the Pinkerton like era about how like that was like him
Ooh,
like because
yeah.
like because if he like
That's an
forgive me
embarrassing thing for your
my,
dad
like-
to have written.
yeah like
Yeah,
it's so like
exact- yeah,
personal
for
and
sure.
such like a 20 something album like
Yeah, that is not the kind of album where like you write that in the moment. You don't want to be like, oh, 40 years ago I put out this
Yeah,
like
like,
incredible.
What is my
It's a
kid
bad
gonna-
first tattoo.
What is my
Yeah,
kid
yeah.
gonna think of me falling in love with a lesbian and being mad about it?
yeah
But
like, and,
also
like
a great first tattoo.
and looking at it from that perspective, you can almost see why he like you can understand fully why he finds Pinkerton an embarrassing album, especially because people didn't like it. Like you can fully like understand his point of view, and that's what I think is really great about this album is like it sounds like a band, well not like musically, but it's like it's a band that has been around for 20 years making an album about being like a mature
Around for 20 years.
year old rock band and being a dad and being like all these other things that come along with that.
Can I just say, like, this album
Yeah, sure.
made me incredibly excited for that. And then I listened to some interview where he was like, yeah, I'm going to keep making albums until I'm 65. Like,
Wow, one-upping Paul McCartney.
like a Weezer album with Rivers at 65 is going to be very
I'm
interesting.
intrigued.
I mean, I really don't think like they've fallen off too much. Like,
No.
obviously, this isn't like Pinkerton or the Blue Album. It's different. I'm not saying it's like necessarily worse because this is an incredible album. But like, if their style, like they keep true to like their core capabilities and stuff like that, but their sound somehow manages to evolve, and especially you see that on this. I think this is probably the album where it sounds like the most work was put into it to make it sound this way. Like nothing sounds half-assed on this album, and you can't say that about every Weezer album.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
it's
crazy too, because like apparently they started recording this in 2014.
Yeah,
They started in January and it was out in October.
which is
That's
insane.
pretty good for what
quick
is like.
turnaround.
Yeah, great turnaround for what is an incredibly intricate, layered, you know,
Thematically
even
even just
cohesive.
on
thematically
top of-
cohesive.
It's not like a digital
album.
release either. Like you have to take like ages on top of that to get the pressing plants to press the CDs or the records. It takes so much time. So like if you look at the time that actually they put into making this, it would have been much shorter than that.
Yeah. Really, really good song.
Yeah, I think my only complaint is I think the musically, I mean, I put this as my number one song. I think I was the only one who put this as my number one.
It was a big struggle. I moved those
Yeah.
two back and forth.
Yeah,
quite
for
a
this
bit.
one, I think the smallest complaint I have is like I think the bridge. I don't think it's bad, but I think it falls short of the rest of the
I
song.
agree.
It's a bit of a. It's a bit.
It feels back to the
jolty.
shacky.
Yeah.
What, the bridge? Like I moved out from the sticks?
Yeah.
It just like
It's
it
like-
suddenly
it
like
feels
drop-
very-
Like,
It's
it's like
like-
it's in like it's at like a high spot and
Well,
then suddenly
actually,
it's like
yeah,
all the way down
that
here.
chuggy part at the
jump,
beginning
jump.
that I don't like so much, but when it goes to the second half of it,
Oh, well, yeah,
the second
yeah.
half of that bridge is incredible.
Although the bridge on this, if we're going with the whole operatic theme, it
Yeah.
feels like there's like a quick shift in the scene and like the set changes and it's like young
He's on the
Rivers.
sticks.
It's like a quick flashback to young Rivers
Yeah.
wearing like his like I don't know Styx clothes. His clothes
He's wearing a
from the
Styx
Styx.
shirt.
And like that, and then it progresses back into like where he is now. So I get
And he
the
connects the
choice
And
to
like
do
that
it.
whole line, like, oh, if you think I need approval,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah, he's
Basically
connected
from
to-
Anonymous.
yeah, exactly.
Faceless Throng.
The Guy Fawkes mask. Stop laughing.
I love that you tell the joke and then you immediately went, ha ha.
No one laughs harder at my jokes than me. Because I get what I meant by them. Because I wrote them.
You wrote that?
Oh,
You had that joke written and ready to deliver
You killed a tree for that?
at 3 hours into the podcast.
Are we
did-
3?
No. Well, how
I
long
did
have we been
some typing.
recording?
I mean, there's been a lot of shit
at
where
least
we just stopped.
half
We've had
an hour
2
worth of
breaks
cutting.
and like.
Let's move on to the number 1 ranked song on this album. Another very good song. Please, no spoilers. Eulogy for a Rock Band.
Now, is this about
Fascinating number 1.
Rock Band? The
Now that's eulogy for Rock Band.
for Rock Band. Got
Hey,
it.
Rock Band 4 is still going strong. If anyone wants to play with me, add me on Xbox Live.
Are you gonna?
No, that's Eulogy Rock Band 4.
I'm glad you wrote that.
The worst part was I was going to say that, then I'm like, no.
I'm glad you did that so I could do what I did.
Yeah, I am too.
So we talked about this for a second before we recorded, then we decided to save it for the pod. Is this song about Weezer?
It's not. First of all, like, it's objectively
Now,
not.
okay.
Jump in here, Chaz.
Okay, I'm gonna say Chaz, you made a quick comment a couple minutes ago that is in my head. A lot of these songs, their strengths lie in the fact that they can be interpreted a number
Yeah.
of ways. So even if this song has nothing to do, well, even if this band in this song is not Weezer, lots of what he's saying has a lot to do with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can still draw like joy and pleasure from interpreting something in a way where it wasn't initially like meant to be interpreted as.
And let's say he did write it about Weezer. There's a lot that it would mean about like the Beatles or Pink Floyd or something.
It's
Yeah.
just so hard for me to believe that he wrote a song called Eulogy for a Rock Band and didn't at least think about himself.
He
As a
probably
member of a
did.
rock
There was that Reddit
Because
AMA.
this is in the patriarchy one.
That's not what it's called.
What's the-
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's not about dismantling the patriarchy.
No, there was that AMA where someone asked him about
Yeah, which rock band or who's it about or
what is Eulogy for a Rock Band about, and he's like, oh, it's about one specific band. But it's like this is one
Well,
of those
he
songs
said
that,
he said they asked like who it was about and he said I'll tell you their name or like I'll release the name the day they die.
oh yeah,
Ooh.
I'm
the classic Rivers comment. But like I think
Probably got a bot set up to tweet out his own name when he dies.
that's what I was also thinking.
Yeah,
too.
what if he
That's a
died
lot-
and then it tweeted Weezer? Just a Weezer.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
in like an AMA from like 25 years ago.
yeah, and a hyperlink.
Yeah.
What if it's that kind of thing where like he has to manually deactivate the bot every day?
He has to like log on every day and click nope.
Do not post. But let's talk about this song. It's a very good song.
It is. It's our
I
number
love
one.
the chorus. It is again super operatic, very bombastic.
I might have said that I've had it up to here was the best chorus. I might have agreed with Chaz. I take that back. This is the best chorus. on the
Yeah,
album.
100%. Maybe one of my favorite
Just
choruses.
This is
from
a
Weezer
really
ever.
good one.
Yeah,
but
ever. Just it's so good.
it's a very good one. It's good.
That's it.
Yeah,
This has been in the garage. Have a great night.
But yeah, like for a thought experiment, for a second, let's say it is about Weezer. Like, what does that make this song about? Is he
a
saying
little pretentious.
is
like,
he
you did not
eulogizing-
rule the planet for 15,
for 15 years? Is he eulogizing his like their old selves and saying like they're moving on to a new phase and like sort of saying like, oh, like we're not interested in ruling the planet anymore, or like, and like the way they talk about like we will sing the melodies that you did long ago, like specifically talking about like how, again, they're talking about the passage of time. They're talking about how their biggest success is like now 20 years behind them.
I mean, like eulogy for like any given rock band, and like you could make
Okay.
Weezer is definitely like one of the last bands that you would really group in with like the rock bands. You know, maybe Queens of the Stone Age, but that seemed more of like a post rock type thing. And the genre talk is stupid, but
Foo Fighters.
ugh.
I'll say it on record. Fuck Foo Fighters. They suck.
One of the most overrated bands, I would say. I think we've said this a billion times before. Dude.
If not on mic, then in conversation, definitely. But sorry.
no, the whole leading like in the intro when the guy's like, "Rock is dead, guitars are dead." Like this is such a better fleshing out of why they included that phrase in the intro, talking about just like the emotions he feels about
So
rock.
Yeah,
as a
it's a eulogy
genre,
for
like, kinda
rock, not a
for-
rock band.
Yeah, or just for like
We're saying a rock band, but using it to mean like
rock bands.
rock bands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
it
like
could,
it's triumphant and it's mournful. It's a lot of the same emotions as Cleopatra.
It could-
Like so, this big thing that like went past and is now in the past.
I mean, you could also interpret it as like the point of the fans who just kind of like wrote Weezer off, like adios rock band that we loved the most, talking about like the golden days of Weezer.
Time
Oh,
marches
that's
on.
gone now. They've put out shit, right?
Yeah, like we don't care about what you're doing
Yeah.
now. We're only going to sing
Yeah, the
things
songs,
from
yeah.
long ago.
We'll never forget the jams you made.
Yeah.
Don't let them fade. But then also, it's time that we laid you in your grave. Let them fade.
And at the same time, like 50 years of ruling the planet makes you think it's like Brian Wilson.
15.
No, it's 50.
It's 15.
Let's
No,
get the
it's-
lyric book out, baby.
It's 50. He said it in an interview. I just had it up too.
does the booklet have the lyrics?
No. Yeah, for some of the songs. I put the CD back in my room though.
Ugh.
The one time I would have been, I'm almost positive.
Okay, well, 50 years then, that makes me more think that he could be talking about rock bands.
Yeah, because rock ruled the planet.
Yeah, it could-
musically
yeah.
for 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I am kind of surprised that this is our number one song, but like
I am
feel
too.
like I feel like it does such a great job of merging everything that's great about this album. Like it does have a poppy element to it. It has an operatic element to it. It has like a very like rocking, driving element.
Yeah, I'd say like it's like the good life of this album, and that it's just enough elements from the rest of the album tied up in such a snappy, poppy format.
Yeah.
And like it's weirdly like gothic and like
Baroque.
baroque and sweeping, like eulogy for a rock band. But it's this really tight pop song still in the end.
Yeah, this
And-
is
And like pretty heavy. Like the guitars are like well distorted. The drums are really loud. Like in most of the.
Oh yeah.
Like for a pop song, it's pretty. You know.
To sort of move this out and sort of look at the album as a whole, like what this has sort of made me realize, like talking through all this stuff and talking about how they like execute all these different things in different ways, and how it is the album of a mature band that's made a lot of albums. More than any other album, they couldn't have made this album without making all of the ones before it.
Yeah.
They couldn't have made this album without Ratitude. They couldn't have, especially Red. I really feel the influence of Red here in terms of like sort of like the experimentality and sort of the mixing of genres and sort of the bombastic or like the very like high sights that they're setting for themselves.
And
Yeah,
like
like-
the sea change in how they view themselves.
plus like like in order to have a great comeback, there needs to be failure. Like
You have
there
to
needs
do
to
it
be
wrong
low
before you can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like I think that and like in a lot of ways like this album is about that, and which like is obviously huge for it thematically, but I think like even if they released an album like this like I don't know however many like 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been as big of a
Exactly.
deal, or it just like very much resonates with me emotionally because like I'm thinking about it in the context of this came out in 2014, this came out after Red and Ratitude and like that sort of period that they had, and to have them sort of actively saying like we are confident in ourselves and we are reaching for a high level and that they're attaining it is like very like that's what gives the album a lot of resonance, I feel like.
I mean, I think for this album more than any other Weezer album, like the circumstances and like everything going on around the album, like outside of the album, makes it a better album. Like it really wouldn't have the same power without all of that. And I get that on this album more than I would on any previous Weezer album or any Weezer album after that.
Yeah, they needed to make all the albums that they made before, and also just in the broader musical landscape, like from 2004 to 2014, there were a lot of like, I think 2004 was especially like kind of a watershed moment where a lot of weird indie albums broke into mainstream like appeal, and especially that whole decade, there were a lot of weird, complicated indie albums that would have been just like kind of dismissed before got way more popular.
It was a very weird period for music.
Like a ton of kind of more underground styles just came up. And I feel like Weezer had to sit and watch that and go, oh, like an album can be talked about and popular and matter, and people will sing those lyrics at a concert, and it won't be this big mainstream album that gets played on the radio, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. An album can be appreciated and beloved, like even if it doesn't sell a billion copies, because nothing sells a billion copies anymore. You can make a great album, like an album that is just critically acclaimed, that is respected because it is a good album, and then still have that sort of penetrate the things are becoming way more segmented. It's becoming way easier to find like quote unquote obscure stuff, like stuff that's not on major labels. And I think that is definitely something that like they were like, hey, we could just make a good album and people would like us for it. And that's what happened.
Especially because this is their first and only album on Republic Records as well. This was a new label for them to work with. They were also on a label for one album before this, Epitaph for Hurley.
Oh yeah, weird. Do you know why they did that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like they got a decent amount of like creative freedom. I don't know if they were getting that from Gavin.
Yeah.
I really don't think they were.
I think that just about wraps it up for our discussion of Everything Will Be Alright in the End by the band Weezer. Great. I'm going to say it. Great episode.
Yeah. Great album.
I mean, we had Gavin on here. It was great.
Two other people in the room who aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
Very good job keeping quiet, guys.
Love them for it. So just to run down the songs one more time in our order of ranking, you can see it on your screen. I'm really enjoying like just imagining the listener experience at this point.
I am too.
So
They're lucky.
sadly in last place you have Go Away. You got Back to the Shack. You've got Ain't Got Nobody. You've got Lonely Girl. Good joke. You've got Da Vinci. You've got Cleopatra. Frank Ocean. Tyler appreciated it. He's just not showing it in his face or actions. British Are Coming. The British Are Coming. You've got the Future Scope Trilogy, which consists of
The Wasteland.
The Wasteland,
Anonymous,
and Return to Ithaca. You have to say it with the K.
Oh.
Foolish Father, I've Had It Up to Here, and Eulogy for a Rock Band. Gavin, I'm going to turn to you. Anything you want to plug?
There's this great little podcast about band, the Fab Four, as I like to call them. I think it's called.
Are you referring to the Beatles?
Are you referring to
Weezer.
In the Garage?
It's in the no. You were talking about radio earlier. I've been actually listening to a certain radio station that plays a lot of good stuff. Anyway, you should check out KXLU in LA. I think you can probably find it on the internet somehow.
Totally.
LA would have a good radio station.
DJ Mishka is the person to listen to. She's got a really incredible radio show. I think she does Fridays from 5 to 9, but a really eclectic mix of great songs. So if you're interested in finding more new music, check out DJ Mishka.
Awesome. An eclectic recommendation for an eclectic mix.
He likes to recommend a non-Weezer album at the end of every episode. Do you have one of those?
A non-Weezer album
Just for people to listen to.
that I've been listening. Does it have to be like a recent thing or just what I've been?
Just something
Truly
recent.
Recently,
anything.
I've been listening to a lot of George Harrison's "All Things Must Pass."
Nice.
Good
You've
call.
got that on vinyl, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Nice. What do you like about that album?
One of the things I really like about it is the Phil Spector production.
The old wall.
Yeah.
wall sound. George Harrison's slide guitar licks are really tasty.
Was Jeff Lynne from ELO involved in that one a lot? I know he's involved in a lot of George Harrison stuff. They were good friends.
Yeah, they did Traveling Wilburys together.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he is involved in
Might have
that
been a little
record.
too early
He may
for
have
that.
been.
Maybe.
But yeah, because that was right after the Beatles
Yeah,
separated.
that was probably too early for that. Obviously, like nothing like Weezer at all, but the new Drake album, Scorpion, really been feeling that. Listened to it quite a few times since it came out. Lots of good tracks on it. It's a double album, so 2 CDs when it finally comes out on CD. But Yeah, kind of. He's going for two different things. Sort of the first half was supposed to be a more rap album, and the second half was supposed to be more of an R&B album. I mean, obviously there's stuff from either genre on both, but I think that's the main overall feel. I think there's a lot of good songs on that. Some songs that are already like huge hits, some songs that will likely be huge hits in the coming months, and a lot of kind of songs that are kind of like deep cuts, not necessarily filler, but also not necessarily hit material that I've been really enjoying off that. I think it's a nice comeback after Views, which I didn't really like as much. Obviously, it had its moments, and then More Life again, which also was kind of a lot of people saw as a lower point for Drake. But I think this album brings it back nicely.
Nice. All right, Tyler, now's your chance. Time to reveal the mystery. What do you have to plug?
I'm gonna plug Pinata by Freddie Gibbs
And Madlib.
Freddie Gibbs is one of those rappers who can rap over anything. Songs like Off Top, like the production is really not that good. It's like some weird SoundCloud drop-centric stuff, and he just raps his face off anyway. And in contrast to that, Pinata is now where the beats are just top-notch. And I think this album is fully like a modern classic at this point. It is a rapper just bringing his A game and a producer bringing their A game and two minds. And really not that many other people just like fusing it together into a thing that feels timeless. And it's just a great album that I've been listening to a lot more recently, and my own album Water Songs is also on Spotify. Listen to that too.
Yeah.
I almost would have said the title of your album instead of mumbling it so that people could act.
And also my album
Water Signs.
Water
Signs?
Ooh, it's like how in Signs they got killed by water.
Oh, well, I guess
Wow,
I don't have to watch
spoilers.
that one.
Oh, shit.
That's actually a movie I've been wanting to watch for a while, too.
Okay, it came out
Yes, it
15
is.
years ago.
That one and Seven are two out. Wait, no, I saw Signs. Never mind.
Phew!
Holy fuck!
What a
Christ,
roller
is it
coaster.
very-
Wait, is that the one where they like it starts out and like they
Okay,
on the
I haven't
farmhouse?
seen
Crop circles.
Signs.
Crop circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the ending.
Phoenix in that one?
Well, I just told you.
I don't fuck. Did I even?
think-
did I fall asleep partway through that one? I don't know.
There's only one adult in that.
Yeah.
He is?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
A chime in from one of our guests,
From one of our underlings.
one of our interlopers.
Water Signs.
Yes.
Tyler is now on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, iHeartRadio, whatever you
Amazon?
Very exciting.
So that's me, 100% me, and a bunch of my friends. Check that out if you want. That'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Very, very compelling album. New stuff coming soon, I hear.
Sushi.
Is out soon.
Is that what it's... Oh, I thought that's
Song.
what it was, but...
Sushi out soon.
Sushi out soon. Hopefully for me, I'm going to have some sushi in soon.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to recommend the album Inside the Human Body. It's by Ezra Furman and the Harpoons.
Oh, whoa. They're still doing music?
This is from like 2010.
Oh, okay.
But I think Ezra Furman has released some solo stuff recently. I haven't been checking up on him, but I got into this album a ways back. Very under the radar album, very interesting album. Everyone here, I would definitely recommend you listen to it as well. Yeah, not sure quite how to describe it. Like, there's a little bit of clap your hands, say yeah in there. There's a little bit of like almost Bob Dylan in there. It's very, but it's a strong musical album as well.
2014, hand-drawn album cover.
Cheers. But yeah,
I'm
that's
saying it looks good.
wait, 2014. Why did you say?
Was that a classic thing in 2014, having a hand-drawn album
That's
cover?
what it shows on Apple Music.
That's what shows?
Inside the Human Body.
That came out in 2014.
That's what it says.
That can't be so.
Was that for like a deluxe edition or a special edition or
doesn't
2014 remastered?
2008 is the correct
Well,
year on that.
Womp womp.
That's gonna do it for this episode of In the Garage. For Tyler, Chaz, and Gavin,
What up?
I'm Chris. See y'all later. Thank you. Goodbye.
I saw this one thing. It was like Marvel's worst villain. It was like that Thanos guy or whatever. It's like DC's worst villain. It was like Rotten Tomatoes.
Put that at the end.